gentlemen. We still have people coming on. We're at 55 screens. Welcome to the June ERA meeting. We've started with Zoom meetings as an alternative to having the hotel not available. I'm Bob Newhauser. I'm the president, and I'm moderating these meetings. I'm pleased to inform you that we normally do not have a July meeting, but we will have a July meeting this month. Not this month, sorry. We will have a July meeting. It'll be Friday, July 17th, and our presenter will be Peter Ehrlich, who is a longtime Muni employee. He also wrote a 300-page book, which I think many of you have, called The San Francisco F-Line. He's a wonderful presenter. You do not want to miss it. So it's Friday, July 17th. Let me make sure I have the date right. Friday, July 17th. And it'll be the same thing, 7:15 we let people in. The program starts at 7:30. Ron, you have 59 people. So let me, we still don't know if we are going to be, when we reopen in the Roosevelt Hotel, but one thing we are sure of, we are going to try to record every meeting, and tonight I have confirmation the recording is on. And Sandy Campbell, who is our first vice president, he's also our webmaster, and he's our extraordinary graphics artist. This is his own firm, and he will be posting that. All right, so as for tonight's presenter, we have Ron Yee, longtime member of ERA. He's our second vice president. He was with Metro North for 30 years, recently retired. He rose to manager of, was an onboard services officer, is manager in that area. But he's
like
also
a senior train master.
What's that?
Senior train master.
Senior train master. Okay.
Train master sounds more impressive.
Right. He's also a world traveler. He's been to Asia. He's been all over Europe. He really has a wonderful program for us tonight. I believe a lot of it is in Germany and other places. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to let him take over. And what I'm going to do, I believe everyone is muted. And everyone is on video, is on not video, which is perfect. One other thing I want to mention, if you're going to chat, if you want to talk to a friend of yours, you can always talk directly to that person. Otherwise, everything goes to everyone. The only chat thing that should go to everyone is if you have a question for Ron, I will monitor the chat and I will ask Ron the question. But if you're making comments to other people, please just make them directly to other people. For those of you that find chat annoying, and some may find that annoying, there is a feature where you right-click on chat and you can push the chat to the right side of the screen. So I think with that, I'm always getting people in here. So, okay. With that, Ron, I'm going to turn the program over to you. And why don't we see if you can share your screen, okay?
Okay. And here we go.
We're good. Okay, go ahead and start, Ron.
All right, slideshow, here we go.
You're good?
Yeah, this is basically the Berlin rail map, the entire Berlin system. It shows both the S-Bahn as well as the U-Bahn. And what it does is it's sort of like the way the French have it with in Paris. They mix the commuter rail as well as the regional, the subways or the U-Bahn or the metro all together in one same similar map. And it's a very extensive system. They have unified fare systems where a fare card is good on all the means of transportation. I just go back on this. You can see this image over here. This basically shows the entire system with shaded fare zones. The pink zone in the middle is the city urban zone, Zone A. Zone B is basically the suburban, and Zone C is the outer reaches. You'll notice Zone A is surrounded entirely with a ring system, S41 and an S42 line. One of them is basically clockwise, and the other one is counterclockwise. Just looking at this thing over here. I forget exactly. I had to note in here someplace about which line goes which way. Well, one of the directions is clockwise, and one of the other directions is counterclockwise. And the trains basically run around the loop. If you want to go clockwise and it's faster to go to that station by the clockwise route, you ride that one. If you want to take the scenic route, you're more than welcome to ride the counterclockwise. Anyways, proceeding on to the next image. This is the downtown center business district. It shows the ring system. Okay, here we go. S41 is clockwise, S42 is counterclockwise, or to say in the UK, anti-clockwise. You have all the U-Bahn lines. You have the S-Bahn. Hauptbahnhof is the main railway station. Basically, the former border between east and west runs down where my cursor is going through, more or less. A lot of your different gates, Brandenburg and whatnots, which is over here. Friedrichstrasse was basically the last stop in the former DDR before you got to the west. Alexander Platz is where I stayed, and that's completely in the East Berlin section. One of the things you'll notice also before why I still have this map up is that the tram system remained relatively intact in the eastern part of Berlin. West Berlin, being westernized, of course, in their infinite wisdom, decided to abandon most of their trolley routes, and unfortunately, most of the trolleys disappeared, replaced by buses. If you're part of the Motor Bus Society, more power to you, but unfortunately, we lost all the trams, or most of the trams. Only a few of them were restored after the reunification of the city, where the trams started operating once again in the west, but only in a very limited basis where the tracks hadn't already been torn out due to, as they say, quote unquote, progress. This is basically the U-Bahn. That's the metro system of Berlin. This is basically a schematic map. And we're going to start with the trams. And this is basically the, what do you call it? The Berlin Tram F8Z class on the Route 4 M4. While I'm on this topic, the Berlin tram system is basically broken up into two halves. One's called a metro tram, and the other one's with plain regular tram lines. The metro tram was basically designed to supplement the U-Bahn system. They have minimum of 10-minute headways during the daytime. They run at night in 30-minute headways. It's essentially basically providing mass transit services to places where the U-Bahn doesn't go yet. This is on Route M4. You see the famous Berlin Tower in the background. And we're at part of the complex that is known now as Alexander Platz. We have an F8Z on Route 10 southbound at Landsberger Alley at Petersburger Strasse. Notice the private right-of-way enclosed by trees. Reminds people of New Orleans, except you have much more modern cars operating at far greater speeds. The nice thing about the way the system is set up in Berlin is most of the trams have their own private right-of-way, unencumbered by traffic. so they don't get delayed by errant cars, delivery trucks, illegal vehicle operations. The the trams zip along the right of way, unimpeded. Here's an F8E type of tram. This is the rear end of it on Route M8 at Invalidine Park. And this one is over here. This is a GT6ZR on the Route M4, one of the Metro tram routes, again at Hiedelberger Platz. I had the good fortune of being in Berlin towards the back end or the tail end of Oktoberfest. So they had a lot of Oktoberfest kiosks, concessions, decorations all over the place on Hiedelberger Platz. Normally, I would imagine the place is a lot more wide open as far as plazas, wide open spaces, but the Oktoberfest decorations really made for a very, very nice touch. And last but not least, of all the different types of trams you see in the Berlin tram system, here's an old Tatra on Route M6 at Petersburger Strasse. The Tatras are the oldest operating trams in Berlin right now. They're still operating good and strong. How long they're going to operate for before they are replaced by newer cars, I'm not 100% sure. But enjoy them while you can. There's only a few lines that these Tatras run on. Here's another Tatra. If you want to go and if you eventually, when we have international travel open again, hopefully the ridership is stable and the need for the Tatras is still required for the fleet. But if you want to chase them, the Route M17 is the place to go and chase them. They around about 1/3 to 1/2 of the vehicles operating on the M17 are the old Tatra cars. Now we're going to move off the Berlin trams and we're going to go to the Berlin U-Bahn. The U-Bahn basically is set up very similar to the New York City subway system. Those of you who are familiar with it, of course all of us New Yorkers are, but those who are not from the New York City area, New York subways and Berlin subways carry have a factor that makes them very common. They share a characteristic where one part of the system has narrower cars with smaller, shorter cars, and then another part of the system uses longer, wider cars, much like our IND, BMT, B division 10-foot wide cars, as opposed to the A division former IRT 9-foot wide cars. I split the show up into the sequence here into two different fleet types. We're going to start here with the narrower cars on the Berlin U-Bahn. This one is a Type A3L on Route U1, passing over the bridge after leaving Warschauer Strasse terminal. Hopefully I'm not butchering my German over here. Beautiful bridge, brick arches with a matching building in the background. One thing that I have to compliment the Germans on is that they build a lot of their infrastructure to match the surrounding buildings. Things blend in, they look like they belong there, even though a lot of things have been rebuilt. But they do have a very distinct period look to them, and I congratulate them on going through the extra effort of matching everything up in a certain decor and a certain motif. Very, very nice touch. Here is a Type A3E on the Route U1 at Schlesisches Tor.
Schlesisches Tor.
Yep, Schlesisches Tor. Oh God, wait until I get to France. It's going to get worse.
You're fine. You're good.
These are some of the outdoor stations that are more scenic. Notice the canopy roofs, the wood treatments. And here's a Type A3L on Route U2, descending into the tunnel just east of Everwalder. Everwalder station's in the back here. And this is again, one of the narrower cars coming down into the tunnel. Next images would be the A3E on Route U3 northbound at Hiedelberger Platz. When I was over in Berlin, I had two very wonderful hosts who were very proud of their city and showed me all the highlight stations to go to compress the amount of time.
Now,
I had less than a week there.
Ron, what station is this?
This one is let's see, this one's called Hiedelberger Platz.
Okay, so outside of Moscow and St. Petersburg, I think some of the most beautiful subway stations in the world are on the old Berlin U-Bahn lines. I mean, if you look at just how palatial this station looks.
Yep.
It's
Very
really
nice.
amazing.
It's clean.
Yeah, but also the vaulted ceilings and all that good stuff.
Yep.
So.
Okay. The next one would be this one is at Mokenbrook. It's near their Science and Technology Museum. That's the stop nearest to there. And this is a Type A3L on Route U1. And these are the older standard cars that people have seen in Berlin for decades. Now we're going to move on to the next generation of Berlin's narrower profile cars. And that's what these cars look like over here. This is the new Type IK18, also on Route U1, approaching Hallisches This part of the Route U1 runs on an elevated line. I think it's ballasted right away trackage. Then we have the Type IK on the U5 westbound at Wuppertal. Now, what I want to draw everybody's attention to is, due to varying mismatches of fleet equipment availability, where they don't have enough wider bodied cars to fulfill the entire fleet requirement, but they do have an excess of narrower profile cars. They've added these little platform skirtings on the side, much like the BMT did with the Myrtle Avenue elevated.
Wasn't the Myrtle, Ron? It was the Faulkner Street C-type.
Right. They opened up these cars over here. They added skirting to fit the profile, so there's no large gaps between the platform and the cars, and they're running the cars around as part of regular service. This one is over here at Wuppertal. Notice in the background is an interchange stop with an S-Bahn line. This would be the equivalent of an across the platform transfer between the New York City Transit and the Long Island Railroad, or say Metro North. Whether that will ever happen in New York City, who knows? Okay, this is a Type IK17 on the U5 at Alexanderplatz Terminal. This is a terminal stop. The trains come in, they change ends and go back out again. Again, notice the skirting matching up with the platforms to fill in the gaps. Notice also the steel work. Everything is beautifully painted. There are no rust spots, no drip marks, no stains. So it's a very wonderfully maintained system. This is what you can do with a system that's well funded and has a dedicated source of funding that the authorities can count on every single year, year after year after year. None of these political games, depending on who's in the political driver's seat in Albany or the city, as to who gets the money for the MTA, who gets more of the lion's share, and the annual or 5-year capital program fights. And what you have is a mess. This is an example of what can be done over here if the money was dedicated towards it. Anyways, enough of my pontificating. Now we're going to move on to the wider cars, otherwise what I call the B division of the Berlin U-Bahn. This is an F76E on the route U8 at Alexanderplatz. You can see the A in the background for the station sign. Notice how clean the platforms are. They're shining. Every light seems to work. The next one over here is where the Berlin airport, airlift used to be, Tempelhof. This is called Platz der Luftbrücke, and this is a Type F84 on the U6 line. Nice looking, very beautiful station, high ceilings. Not quite as fancy as the other one that you saw before at the Hiedelberger Platz, but still quite impressive. Notice the help stations over here. and the validation machines. Everything's very nicely laid out.
How wide are the wide cars and narrow cars? Do you know how many feet wide they are?
I'm not sure exactly what the dimensions are, but they appear to be similar to the differential between IRT and IND BMT here in New York City. Probably around about a little shade less than 3 meters in width for the narrow cars, and probably right around about 3 meters in width for these cars over here, which are the wider cars. This one over here is on the U55 at the Hauptbahnhof. Upstairs is the main railway station. The U55 is also the same line that has occasionally the historic cars that run as part of a museum operation for the Berlin U-Bahn. Unfortunately, during the week that I was there, in the 5 days that I was able to do some rail fanning, the old cars were not available, and I landed up with these cars. Well, being that these cars are going to be replaced within the next few years anyways, I'm happy to get these. I'll set up for these, and I'll just get the pictures of the old cars off the internet. This is an F76E. This one is an F92 at Mehringdamm. This is basically like a typical New York City subway express stop where you have the middle tracks as the express service, and off to the side over here, you have an express track and then a local track up against the wall on the other side of the concession stand. It's a 4-track station, 2 island platforms.
Which station is that? Which station, Ron? Did you say Mehringdamm?
Yep, this is Mehringdamm.
Yeah, right. And it's like a
On the
New York style transfer stop. Yeah.
Right, and it's a transfer stop to another line.
Right.
If you wanted to see what the interior of these cars look like, that's what they look like. Very clean. They're Spartan, but very utilitarian. They have cushion seats, and they're very clean. Okay, now we're going to move on outside, and you will see some of the newer equipment. Here's a comparison of the new and the old. The newer cars is an H01 on the U5, westbound out of Biesdorf Süd. It's one of the outside stations. And the next one is a type H95, also on the U5. This one's eastbound out of Karlsdorf Nord. This is also a turnaround spot for some of the trains that short turn on the U5.
Ron, I noticed something that they don't seem to go in for stainless steel in Europe, do they? They're painted whatever, aluminum or for LAHD.
They're probably aluminum for the weight restrictions. The lighter the car body, the less energy they use. They would probably prefer to paint the cars rather than equip them with stainless steel and make them excessively heavy.
Jesus. Hello?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Yes.
Okay, so this one's the H95 at Karlsdorf Nord.
Is that an underrunning third rail?
This is underrunning third rail, just like Metro North and Septus Market Frankfurt.
And some of the earlier ones were overrunning third rail without a cover board.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, we also have the type H97 that you see here. This is an Alt Tego. And you see a little bit of a small line map over here in the back. That's part of the decoration. It is accurate. Notice the outside sliding doors. You'll see the inside in a couple of seconds. That's the interior. They have the open gangway design. A lot of pluses and minuses with the open gangway. You increase your carrying capacity by being able to carry passengers in spaces that would otherwise be between cars. So you increase your carrying capacity by about 5 or 8%, depending on how wide the corridor is between cars. People can move freely about to redistribute themselves throughout the unitized set, so the crowds aren't concentrated in one car. They do have some downsides. The biggest one is smoke and fire. If you have a fire in one car or smoke condition, basically there's nothing to hold the smoke condition to one particular car. The whole set gets it. And the other thing that's more relevant to today's pandemic situation, if you have an infected person get into this car 3 cars away and the air blows back and forth, you can potentially infect the entire train during a during, say, a 10 or 15-minute ride. There are some hazards to it, so it's up to the operating authorities to decide which way they should, should they go as far as safety goes. Do you want to increase the carrying capacity, but the downside is, allowing germs to flow around? That's for the authorities to decide. That's above my pay grade. Anyways, moving on to the U-Bahn, we're now going to the S-Bahn. This is the Suburban Rail Network. There are 3 specific classes of cars in the S-Bahn, and this one is over at Hauptbahnhof. This is sort of reminiscent of the Washington, D.C. Metro Underground vaulted system, where you have a transfer stop. In the background, you have a perpendicular line, which aligns with the DB long distance and regional rail trains, and that would be downstairs, and on the upper level would be the S-Bahn commuters. Very similar to Philadelphia. The Suburbans are upstairs and the intercities are downstairs. Anyways, this is a Class 481 built in 1986 by AEG Adtrans Bombardier on the S9. This one over here is a Deutsche Bundesbahn Class 182 electric locomotive with a westbound regional, and there's a Class 481 S-Bahn, again at Hauptbahnhof. Photo opportunities are abundant here. Just stand around the platform, everything unfolds in front of you. You better have a memory card that has lots of capacity, because you're going to run out real quick. We have a Class 481 at Hauptbahnhof again on the outside. My hosts, Barbara and Jürgen in Berlin, had told me that originally this station was supposed to be entirely enclosed, but apparently due to funding and construction and some engineering issues, they decided to truncate the glass enclosure and leave some portion of the upper suburban platform out in the open. Well, to say we can't always be 100% perfect. The best laid plans of mice and men sometimes go awry. But it does look very nice. And because I'm out in the open here, it provides me with a beautiful sunlight view and the Deutsche Bundesbahn symbol in the background and the entire glass structure. So, you know what? I didn't mind it one bit. This one is a former East Berlin car on the, it was built by LEW. It's called a Class 485. This is the second type of car that they have on the S-Bahn in Berlin. These were originally built for the East Berlin portion of the S-Bahn. After reunification, all the car fleets became the same. Again, you notice the universal underrunning third rails. This is also at the Treptower Park in a southbound direction on the S8. Going back into another station, this is at Alexander Platz. This is a Class 481 on the S7.
Ron, there was a question in the chat.
Yes.
Do the Germans build their own cars for the most part?
Yes, they do. I think it's like the way they have it over here in the United States. They're assembled in Germany, even though they might be, say, Bombardier. Bombardier has plants in Germany someplace, and they produce cars for Germany.
Right, and I think, well, Siemens, everyone knows Siemens is a major builder, but they don't make every car that we see. But I think generally it's mostly German content. I don't know if they have Japanese cars or not. I mean, you know better from what you're showing, right?
Yeah. Okay, and this is another shot over here of another 481 class on the S7. Also at Alexander Platz. I did climb all the way to the top of the tower in the Berlin Cathedral. And from the tower, they have an observation deck, and you can see the S-Bahn crossing the Spree River from the high vantage point, and the whole Berlin skyline in the background. It's quite an effort to climb up to the cathedral. I don't recommend that for people who are less than in good shape. If you're not in good shape, I wouldn't attempt it. Yeah, this is the newest type of car. It's the Class 480 on the Circle Line counterclockwise S42 at Tempelhof. And this is a Deutsche Bundesbahn Class 182 westbound at Alexanderplatz towards dusk. And speaking of Alexanderplatz, this is what the station looked like from the outside street level at night. Beautifully done station. Just imagine in Philadelphia, had they rebuilt Reading Terminal, this is what they could have had. Anyways, going back to Hauptbahnhof in Berlin, we're now going to go downstairs. This is a German ICE Class 3 at Berlin Hauptbahnhof. This one's coming into the station, made a stop. Notice the plugged doors. They have an ICE 4 that's running around out there. There's not too many of those train sets running around yet. They're still being delivered. I have yet to see one, and ride it.
The trolls are out.
Okay, folks, behave yourselves out there. Here's another one that's as the train was leaving. This yellow stanchion over here is actually the platform conductor's stand. He inserts a key here. He's basically the starter, like the equivalent of a starter in Boston. He basically dispatches the train when everybody finishes their boarding and alighting for the train. He signals, blows a whistle. He gives a signal to the conductor to close the doors, and gives another signal to the engineer to proceed out of the station. These trains have an amazing acceleration. He was already doing about 30 miles an hour, and the train wasn't even halfway out of the station. Anyways, just to show you what a city that basically has a clean slate and a blank sheet to use and write with. This is what you can do when you start from scratch. You have a multi-level station where the upper deck has the Suburban S-Bahn trains. You have 3 levels of retail. Ticketing is on this level here at the top of the escalator. Retail stores are the next 2 floors below. And all the way down in the basement where you see this set of stairs and escalators going to are the long distance and intercity services. So this would be the equivalent of, say, just if you let your imagination run wild, just imagine a super Penn station where this is the either the IND or the IRT on the Broadway or the 8th Avenue line, and downstairs is the Long Island Railroad, New Jersey Transit, and Amtrak, with multiple levels of retail and ticketing in between, and a glass roof.
Well, Ron, this station is quite new. I think it opened in 2006, and I think it was 6 billion euros to open it. So, as you said, it's good when it starts with a clean slate. So.
Yes. Well, when
somebody asked,
when you consider it cost $4 billion to build the Oculus down in the World Trade Center, I think they got a better bang for the bucks in Germany.
in Berlin.
Yeah.
Hold on, Ron. There was a question. Oh, somebody was saying. So just to repeat, those didn't. This is the Berlin Hauptbahnhof. It's basically their union, the long distance train station, but also the S-Bahn stop there.
Right. This is their main railway station. Okay, we're going to now leave Berlin, and my hosts in Berlin were very kind enough to take us and escort us all around Dresden. About a 2-hour drive. I had the privilege and pleasure of being a motor vehicle doing about 105 miles an hour, or roughly about 170 kilometers per hour down the Autobahn. Interesting ride. Personally speaking, I don't like driving anything over 80 miles an hour. I'll go 90 if I'm behind the controls of an M2, but not in the motor vehicle. Anyways, we're in Dresden now. This is a class 442 electric multiple unit at Dresden Hauptbahnhof. This is their main railway station. Trams are right downstairs off the front door by this building that's glass enclosed. That's a retail complex over there. And down in the gully between is a wide plaza with several tram line stops and stations and tracks. This is another interesting class, Regio Class 1440 EMU, also at Dresden. Notice the Blimhanger steel structure hooked up with a new station building made to look old. They did a wonderful job of restoring everything and rebuilding everything. Notice the high-speed track in the middle here, no platforms for trains that bypass the city. Now we're going to have a quick overview. Being that we're only here in a day trip, I basically just kind of stayed close. The Outbound office over here, where my cursor is, went across the river and stayed around over here in the market area and the Neustadt, the new city. The system for Dresden is rather extensive, and if you don't know exactly where you're going, you can get lost real quick. But it's a beautiful system, very extensive and very efficient. The headways are great. Showing you the different types of cars. There's basically, I think they number the cars 25, 26, 27, and 2800 series. I think there's like 3 or possibly 4 different car types. They're very similar to each other, but there are some minute differences when you look at the car bodies themselves. This one is passing the Dresden Ferris wheel under Route 4. That was a 2500. This is a 2800 class tram on the Route 11, approaching the Postplatz. There's a famous plaza over here, and part of the I guess the former royal palaces of in the local area from ancient Germany. I'm not that good in the history, but of trains. I'm not that good with history and as far as nun trains go, but this is very historic. It's a tourist attraction. There's an entire section of town that's basically turned into a pedestrian-only zone with art museums, operas, and music schools. This is over here at Postplatz Station. This is their main nodal transfer point. From here, you can transfer between at least 4 or 5 different tram lines. This is a 2500 class tram on the Route 1 at Postplatz. Notice the glass ceilings. You have the canopies over here that allow light in, but not the rain or the snow. Again, another view. This is a 2700 class tram on the Route 2, also at Postplatz. And 2600 was a little bit of shrink wrap advertising. Thank goodness the windows were left uncovered. This is also on the Route 1, passing the Alt Market. It's kind of the Alt Market is kind of notorious. They had a wonderful Christmas display and festival, and some nitwit with a vehicle went in there, and I think they mowed down a bunch of people with a car a number of years ago. The old Christmas market was attacked. But that's the site of the attack. But this is, these trams are just traveling nearby. But you can see what kind of a dense urban area this is. Okay, now we're going to leave Dresden. And once again, Jürgen and Barbara, I thank you very, very much for being our hosts in Berlin. I don't think I would have gotten half of these pictures without your help. My hat's off to you, and many, many thanks. Now we're going to go on to Hamburg. That was our next stop. We took the ice train from Berlin over to Hamburg. This is a map of the Hamburg rail system. Again, just like the Berlin system, it's an integration of their S-Bahn and their U-Bahn. The U-Bahn are the red, the blue, the yellow, the green, and this teal-colored blue line, kind of like a bluish-green line over here, which is the newest one that they have. There's a map over here that I'm going to show you. I guess I didn't have that map over there. I'll show you to you in the next series of slides. But this basically, we started off when I first arrived in Hamburg. This is a DB Regional 182 class locomotive at the Hauptbahnhof in Hamburg. The way this station is organized and laid out, it makes the photography a little bit different, a little bit difficult. You have to attack the photography from a different standpoint. These are all glass walls and railings and balconies to look over. And you would think that there'd be a plethora of trains here to go and take pictures of. However, there's no real rhyme or, well, unless you know the area and know the flow of things, it's very difficult as a newcomer to the city to basically know exactly where to stand to get the next train. The area is also so crowded with people that once you find out where a train is going to be, it's rather difficult to get across the terminal to get the shot. Anyways, this train was sitting here nice and stationary for me to shoot. It was just posing. This one over here is a Nordbahn multi-level electric motorable unit, also at Hamburg Hauptbahnhof. This one's a these are the regional trains, the intercity DB's intercity trains that hop on Dam Tour. We happen to stay in the hotel right adjacent to the Dam Tour station. It was very, very convenient. These are push-pull sets that you see here with a cab car and there's a locomotive at the other end. Again, you have a ICE 3 leaving Dam Tour in the morning. Also in Hamburg. Just around the corner, it's only about 2.5, 3 minutes away, and that's the main Hauptbahnhof on the other side of the bridge. Now we're going to get into the S-Bahn. Hamburg's S-Bahn is a mix of very ultra-modern and historic. This is the new station at the Flughafen, which is the airport. It's a Type 474 S-Bahn. And you notice when you get off the train, there are multiple displays, flat screen TVs, display screens showing what flights are about to leave, what airline, what gate, what terminal. So you know before you even walk off the platform, when you get to the top of the escalator leaving the station, go to Terminal 1 or go to Terminal 2 and you have your gate information already. This one is a Type 474 S-Bahn at Dam Tour and a Type 490. This is the newest type of car they have in the Hamburg S-Bahn. This is also at Dam Tour. There's 2 island platforms. There's 4 tracks, 2 platforms. This platform is inbound, outbound for the S-Bahn. The other side is the regional and ICE intercity trains. This is the oldest type of car in the S-Bahn, the Class 472. This is at the Hamburg Hauptbahnhof.
How old would you say these are? Any idea?
I had the builder's dates. I forgot to load them into my data sheet here.
Fine.
But they date back to the 70s, I think.
Okay, that's what I meant. Whereas the others are brand new.
Well, the other one's the previous one over here. This is like the equivalent of an R160/R179 type of equipment.
Okay, gotcha. But 10 years old, others
right.
are 70s. Okay.
Right, and these are basically turn of the century, around about 2000.
Okay.
And these are from sometime in the 70s or 80s.
Okay.
They look a lot older, but they really aren't. They're very nice cars. They ride well. They accelerate well. And as I say, when you maintain your cars properly, there's no reason why an electric motorable unit car can't last 40 or 50 years. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Hamburg U-Bahn. The interesting thing about this map, I wish I could blow it up a little bit. But this map over here, if you notice, there's a few sections here, there's little black markings across the red line. And there's some other markings across the yellow line over here. They show you tunnel portals. Between this section, this runs above ground. This is underground again. This runs above ground and it goes back underground again. It was invaluable as far as my rail fanning goes. It told me what stations to go to as far as which sections were above ground. Like say, for example, in the blue line over here, the tunnel portal was here. So I knew that once you got north of here, everything was above ground. You go south of here, it's underground. Anyways, a very handy, useful map to have. I found that on the internet. It was a lifesaver as far as that goes. Moving on to my photographic harvest. The Hamburg U-Bahn has 2 specific types of cars. This is the DT4 class on the route U1 at Kellinghusen stations, Kellinghusenstrasse. These are the older cars. The lines are organized in such a way where, for the most part, the fleets are uniform. You know, the U1 would basically have all the older cars. A U3 would be the newer cars, etc. You'll see them in a couple of minutes.
Now, which one is this, Ron?
This is the DT4, the older class cars.
From when, about when, 80s?
Probably the late 80s or maybe when the system first opened. These are almost like the original cars. And as the system grew and expanded, they ordered new cars, which you'll see in a couple of slides.
So I'm going to correct you because I was in Hamburg in '74. I think they had an original set of cars. So the Hamburg, the German name of the transit agency is the Hamburg Elevated Railway Company. Very quaint, just like the Boston Elevated. So they had original cars. Then they had some stainless steel cars that looked like the Philadelphia cars in the early '70s. So this is probably the third set of cars that
Right.
they've had.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bob. The other nickname they have instead of U-Bahn in Hamburg is they call it Hochbahn. That's the
Elevated train.
that all the people in Hamburg use by. You want to take? They don't say U-Bahn. They say Hochbahn. So these are the older cars. I happen to get a nice little meet over here at the station Kellenhusenstrasse. This is the interior of the older cars. Again, notice the cloth insets, cushion seats. They have individual cars. Each car has, it's contained within itself.
And I think,
they're
Ron,
not-
these cars are very narrow. They're definitely narrower than IRT cars. They may even be narrower than Montreal cars. I don't know what the width is, but they're pretty narrow.
They're probably somewhere in the range of an IRT car, though I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Can you do 4 across in an IRT car? I think not.
Okay, good.
This looks like it's a little bit wider than an IRT. I think it's just the size of the windows makes the cars look narrow. They're nice and spacious, give you a good view, but it makes the car look narrow. But I can't see anybody sitting
You
forward.
can't have 2 Americans sit on that, either of those bench seats. Tell you.
Yeah, or 2 Americans, 2 ERA conventioneers. Okay. I won't get any further into that. Anyways, these are the newer cars. These are the DT5 class, and this is on the route U-Bahn route U3 at Hiedelberger Strasse. And yes, I have to admit, I did have a hamburger in Hamburg. So they're not really known for it. Everybody just it's a misnomer. Anyways, this is outside on the open air platform. When you go inside the A-frame structure, it's very beautiful on the inside. Aside from having the glass end treatment, which is over here from the inside, you have a beautiful wooden roof. It's on a steel structure, but they instead of using metal or tin plate or corrugated steel, they put this beautiful wood structure in the top. Okay, the next one over here, that's another what do you call now I'm going to move over from the U3 and go on to the new line, the U4. That was that teal covered line that went across the river. This is at the last stop at Elbrucken. This is the last stop for the U4 currently. I'm not sure if the line, it looks like it could be extended right now, that bumping post at the end of the structure, but I don't see any reason why it can't be extended even further.
Yes,
Work.
beautiful.
Okay,
You
great.
got it. You're
All
back.
right,
Don't let that happen again.
yeah, let's keep on moving. All right, we're back to the Hafen University, and now we're at the Übersee quarter, and you can see the ADA elevators over here going all the way to the top. These are like the Second Avenue subway in New York City. It's a very deep bore tunnel. It's more than, I would say, it's at least 30 meters below ground. This is another DT5 at Hauptbahnhof Süd. And this is how they get around this is how they comply with ADA or handicap requirements. What they did was they rebuilt the platform at the midpoint, raised them so that they're even with the door sills. On the other parts of the platform, you still have to step up or step off the cars. But if you're in a wheelchair or you need even level platform boarding or lighting, that car is the handicap car, and you can roll yourself on and off. And they have the ramps over here that are very, very gentle and great. It's a nice way of handling the ADA instead of having to spend enormous sums of money bringing the entire platform up to height. It's actually quite efficient, and it's very effective too. This is a nice little night shot that I was able to get. This is at the Rodings Market. And if you wonder what the inside of these stainless steel Hochbahn cars in the DT5 series look like, that's the interior. These cars come in 3-car unitized sets, open gangway between cars. And we're now leaving Hamburg, and we're going to go on to across the border to France. Just to kind of explain the sequence of these pictures, I had flown into Berlin, spent almost a week there, did 3 days in Hamburg, and then flew from Hamburg over to Paris to join the Motor Bus Society convention that was held early October of last year. And this is what you're going to see here. This is the Paris combination RER and Paris Metro map, as well as all their tram lines. The RER are the heavy lines over here that go north and south in the radial route. This RERC line right now is still all the service for rebuilding. Everybody's over here on the other line over here with the A line, as well as the D line. You have a whole bunch of tram systems in Paris as well. There's something like 10 different tram lines in Paris. For the most part, because of the space requirements of the tram systems, you need to have wider boulevards or avenues or space to put the tram lines in. And for the most part, because of that, your trams are all on the outskirts of the city. You'll see a few tram lines at the T3 that ring the bottom half of the city. You'll see these tram lines out here that parallel one of the RERs. And all the way up north and towards Saint Denis, you have some of the original tram lines like the T1 and the other lines. Anyways, let's get going with the trams first. The Motor Bus Society stayed at a station called I think it was called Versailles. I'm trying to look at this thing over here.
Yes, you're right. Village Versailles, yeah.
Yep. We stayed at Versailles on the line 14, which is one of the automated lines in Paris. They're slowly automating the system. It's going to take them years to do it.
So
Line 1 was automated a few years back. Line 14 was constructed new as an automated line. And the next one that apparently, from what I understand, is being automated is the line 4, which is this purple line that runs through town.
right. Ron, I'm going to add something. Their plans are not necessarily to automate each and every line. It is very expensive. They're going to automate what they consider to be the very heavy lines. They have some lines that are lighter, and those may not be automated. I think they do a study on each line to see if the cost of converting it is worth it. But all those so far are very heavy lines. So.
Okay, thank you. One thing is when international travel resumes again, for all you Francophiles that would like to get pictures of the line 4 type of cars, do so quickly, because as they are making moves towards automating, unfortunately the platform walls and gates are being erected at many of the stations. Line 4 basically is about, when I was there in October, was about 1/3 the way done. This famous station called Cité, which is on where the Notre Dame Cathedral is located, is still in its original condition, but as automation comes in, they're going to put up platform gates and probably ruin the entire photographic quality of the station. You'll see the pictures of the station later on as I go through my images here. But let's start with the ride around the trams. I did my tram riding over a process of 2 days. Day number 1, I spent most of my time up the north side of town, up near Saint Denis. Here's a T8 tram at Saint Denis on the northbound direction. Because of the multitude of tram lines and me not wanting this show to last for 4 hours, I only gave like 1 or 2 examples of each tram type. This is a T8. The T1s are the original light rail or light rail vehicles or tram cars that the Parisian RATP had purchased years ago. This is also at Saint Denis. These 2 lines intersect. You can see the diamonds over here. The T8 goes across, and the T1 is what you're seeing right now. This one over here is a T5. It uses Translore technology. There's a center guide rail. This is the only thing that makes this a rail tram. You see the tire tracks over here. They're rubber tire trams. Basically, these are driver-operated guided buses powered by pantographs and overhead catenary. It's basically a trolley coach running on guide rails. Anyways, this is the T5, and this is also approaching March Saint Denis. And this is a T6. Beautiful station down here. Again, this line also uses Translore technology, rubber tires, a guide rail down the middle. This is at the T6 line at Viroflay Rive Gauche on the westbound direction. There's my wonderful patient wife, Lily, standing up in the balcony on the mezzanine waiting for me to get the picture and then come on upstairs.
This is T5 still, Ron?
No, this is the T6.
So this is a regular light rail.
Yeah, this is a Translore light rail. It's light rail, but it's not really light rail as we know it. It's Translore, runs on rubber tires.
Oh, okay, that's what I meant. So, but
Right,
this
it's similar. Right, it's similar to the Mestri system you see in near Venice.
which Sid just pointed out.
It's T6 in the south of, it's the long
Right.
line that goes out near Versailles.
Ah, okay, great.
And now I'm on the south side of town. Before I was on the north side of town, now I'm on the south side heading towards the southwest. Okay, now this one over here is a T7 tram south of Saarinen, and he's going southbound. Beautiful office complex and office parks down here. No residentials, it's all business. And this is a T2 series tram. You notice the different car designs now. They're multiple unit. You see one unit tram over here and another section tram over here. They couple them together for capacity. This is a T2 tram at Port de Versailles. And if you go over to the next image, this is the T3A tram westbound at Port de Versailles. This is the interchange stop. If you go to the side on the right-hand side of the screen, you can connect with this line. In fact, you can see the T3A lines way in the background here, and you just walk over. It's almost an across the street transfer. This one is a T4 tram at a T3A, I should say, also at Port de Versailles. And finally, a T4 tram at Bondy. We went up to a bus museum on the outskirts of Paris. And on the way back, our RER-E line stopped. I made a stop at Bondy and shot the T4. I wasn't able to ride it. I didn't have enough time, but at least I got a few shots at the terminal. Now we're going to leave the tram system of Paris and go into the Paris Metro. Paris Metro is an interesting thing. It's not like Montreal where everything is rubber tired. In Paris, half of the metro lines are steel wheel, steel rail, like a traditional subway train, and the other half is rubber tire like you have in Montreal. Montreal chose, because the system is all underground, they chose the rubber tire design. Anyways, this is traditional steel wheel, steel rail. This is a Paris Metro class MF01 on line 2 at Juarez, going in the eastbound direction. I always like this section of the elevated structures on line 2. It has the glass canopy, the skirting is all glass, allows a lot of light, doesn't create shadows, and it's a nice effect overall. These are the newer cars on the line. Years ago, when I first came to Paris, they had the older cars out there, but they're all gone now. They're all MF01 classes. If you want to see what the inside looks like, I'll show it to you in a couple of seconds. This is when the line goes underground. This is at Ternes, T-E-R-N-E-S, westbound. The unique thing about this station is the whole station is located on a curve. And if you shoot the westbound trains, you get the trains from the inside radius. So you get a nice panoramic view of the train. This is the interior of the MF01 class cars. These are the newest ones. Interesting, I should also note right now, the class of cars, when I say MF, it doesn't mean Monday to Friday. It says, basically it means Metro Ferris. Yeah, F means steel. Latin base is ferrous. So the cars that have MF are steel-wheeled. The class cars that have an MP, the P stands for pneumatic, which is rubber-tired. So as I go through the whole thing, MF means steel rail, MP means pneumatic rubber tire. So this is the interior of the MF-01. Now this is the MF-77, which is the next newest series of cars. The year number these cars were built, the class number is very close to that of the year built. The 77s first appeared near around about 1977. They built a whole bunch of cars over the next 5 or 6 years. They call them all 77s. Anyways, this is on line 7 at Paul Vaillant's Couturier, also in the southbound direction. You notice the classic tiled arch design of all the stations and the mosaic station name signs. But they do have vending machines in Paris, and they also have trash cans, something you don't see in London, which you'll see a little bit later on. This is the MF-77 on line 13 at Basilique Saint-Denis. The inside of the MF, you'll see also here in the foreground, these are the platform gates they're putting up. I imagine at some point, this is another line that's going to be a candidate for automation. That's the interior of the MF-77s, and then you move to the next class of steel-wheeled cars, the MF-67. This is on line 3 at Remor, Sebastopol. And again, staying on line 3, I went over to Gambetta, also in the westbound direction. Nice lighting effects over here. I'm over in the northeast part of town now, chasing after some of the old MP59 cars on line 11. They're not long for the world. I went out there specifically to get the oldest cars in the system.
Does that mean they're from 1959?
Yep. First appeared in the system in 1959.
Right. And which line is this?
This one is the MF-67.
No, but what line? What route?
Oh, the oldest cars are on line 11.
Line 11, right.
Yeah, you and I rode it for a little bit.
Yes. I remember.
This is line 3.
Yeah, this is line 3 MF-67 class at Gambetta. And the interior of these 1967 vintage cars, this would be the equivalent of a slant R40 on the New York City subways. That's what they have there. Manually operated doors. The operator releases the door locks as the train rolls to stop. Lift the handle, the doors pop open. Sometimes they pop open when the train is still moving slightly. Just watch your step. Now moving on to the star of the show over here for Paris. These are the old MP59s on line 11 at Belleville. These are the oldest cars. This would be the equivalent of, I guess, an R26 or an R29 on the IRT, or an R2930. They came out in 1959 initially. Classic French arch underground ceiling. This is another MP59 on line 11 at Port de Lilas on the eastbound direction. I do note the direction of the trains traveling so you can get the different angles. If somebody wants to look over the recording of this show, rather than stand at this end of the platform and get this ugly pillar going across, you can get the greater effect that you know what direction to look for. So this is the eastbound direction on line 11. Now going away from the steel wheel sets, you notice the steel rails down here for the, what do you call it, not steel, but the rubber tire. The next generation of rubber tire cars is the 1973 MP73 class on line 6. This is at Quai de la Gare in a northbound direction about to cross the River Seine. Again, notice the glass canopy ceilings, lets a lot of light in. You don't have to turn the lights on, but it keeps the weather elements out. If it's snowing, raining, etc., you're nice and protected, nice and dry. Then you have the somewhat newer cars. This is a station I was mentioning before when we were looking at the map. This is Cité Station. Notice the platforms are still in their original conditions. There's no platform gates, nothing obstructing the view. Get it while you can. I suspect that within a year, with this coronavirus thing going on, they're probably going like gangbusters putting up platform gates. So for all I know, this view may no longer even be available. But anyways, this is a historic stop. You feel like Captain Nemo in a submarine. These are all riveted steel panels down here. The River Seine is literally right on top of you. This is from a platform level view. There is an intertrack fence. You might find it annoying, but it's certainly not as bad as having a platform fence all along the front here, which is going to totally destroy the view. Okay, the next one over here, moving on from this classic car. By the way, a little bit of history in this classic car. This used to operate on line 1. When they went to automation, these cars were handed down to line 4. At some point, these line 4 cars are going to be taken over with newer cars. They're going to go someplace else, probably helping to replace the MP59s eventually at the very end.
You know, how old these cars are, Ron, about?
This one is a MP89.
Oh,
so
89, okay.
Yeah, so this would be like the equivalent of an R68.
Okay, thank you.
This is the newer set of cars, the MP05 or 05 on line 14. This is at Port Saint Emilion going eastbound. Here you notice the full height platform wall gates. So the only way to get a shot is to stand up in the mezzanine and time it just perfectly when a train is rolling into the station. Now we're going to leave the metro system and we're going to go into the RER. This is a cab car, multi-level cab car on line N for Nancy at Montparnasse Station. This is what the cars look like on the inside. This is the lower level, 3 and 2 seating. And when you go to the upper level, it's 2 and 2 seating. And you notice the ceiling up above is curved inwards to fit the narrow profile and the curved roof structure into the of all the rail tunnels in Paris. This is something that the designers of rail cars for Metro North might well want to look at. If they want to put multi-level cars and have them fit through the Park Avenue tunnel, you might want to build cars with a taper at the top. This way you can run them. There's no reason why you can't run multi-levels on Metro North. It's just a matter of accepting the fact that you can have 2 and 2 upstairs and 3 and 2 downstairs. This is an interesting shot. This is about as close as I can think of Paris imitating the Washington Metro. This is the Magenta Station, RER line E, and these are the multi-level cars they have on this line. This is actually a 4-track station. There are 2 side tracks. You look through there's passages that go to single bore tunnels on either side. You have a twin-track bore tunnel in the middle and 2 single-track tunnels on either side. It's all overhead electric catenary. Nice little system here. Another view. Here's your passageway that goes to the other track. Okay, now we'll go outside, and we're out in line E. We went to that bus museum, and this is that Chellis Gournay in northbound direction, some of these same cars. Then you have some of the newer single level EMU cars, multiple unit single levels. This is at Bondi when I got off to see the tram line at T4. And this is apparently this is the newest MU cars. Notice the low floor design. They do have a high floor for the operator, but I don't see any evidence of higher floor doors. So I guess these cars basically, when they go to these high-level platforms, have to run express. Okay, now we're going to move away from the RER, go to the French National Railways. This is your commuter equipment that you have in France, in the Paris Regional. These are the newer regional multi-level cars at Gare de Lyon. This is a TGV. This is one of the original TGV1 sets. They built them, and they have double-deck coaches in the back. This is also a Gare de Lyon. This is in the older blue colors. Originally, these cars were gray with orange. They replaced the orange with blue to match the TGV Atlantique services with the TGV Series 2. And since all that has been done, they now have repainted, or in the process of repainting, the entire TGV fleet into this new gray and white scheme, TGV UI. This is over at Gare d'Est. We utilized Gare d'Est during the Motor Bus Society convention to make our way over to Strasbourg. Now Strasbourg, we're leaving Paris now. We're now in Strasbourg, France. It's a border city with Germany. This is the Rhine River. The Germans call it the Rhine. The French call it the Rhone. This is the part that goes of the tram system that goes all the way into Germany. You have to cross a border.
Sorry, Ron.
Yes.
No, they don't call it the Rhone. It's the Rhin in French. The Rhone is a different river. The Rhone is in Lyon.
Okay. How do you pronounce it again?
Rhin. It's very nasal. French is nasal. Rhin.
Rhine.
It's still the
Okay.
Rhine. It's still the Rhine.
Okay. This system over here has 6 lines, 6 tram lines A through F, and there's a BRT line called line G that goes. It's a bus rapid transit line basically. I don't know where it is over here. I think it's down here someplace. It's the G line. But these are all the other lines over here. And yeah, I think I showed this the last time around when we were in for the ERA convention in Germany. We had gone to Strasbourg. We were based out of Freiburg, I think, and we had come all the way up to Strasbourg to see the tram system. So this is my second visit to Strasbourg. But this is the main railway station for Strasbourg. They restored the entire facade, sandblasted and cleaned it, and then enclosed the whole thing in glass for climate control and weatherproofing, so the facade will never get old. It's nice to have. My own personal opinion is they should have just left the station alone and done away with the glass. The station building, to me, having these pillars and the glass in front of it, it kind of takes away from the old plastic structure of the classic traditional railway station. But that's the way they wanted it. Downstairs is the tram system, multiple levels down by elevator and a couple of banks of escalators. Anyways, they have 3 classes of trams here in Strasbourg. This is a class 3000 built at the Citatis by Alstom, 2005 and beyond. These are the latest cars that they have. This is crossing let me hold my notes, the Rhine River or Rhine River on a double span cable suspension bridge. There's a parallel roadway that goes across the river as well. Interesting story was when I was with another attendee of the convention, apparently a person wanted by the police in Germany was possibly seeking to escape into France. So they had roadblocks, they stopped the trams, they searched the trams for the suspect, they stopped all the cars and buses on the road. But here was myself and another rail fan just simply walked across a bridge, unquestioned, unlooked at, nobody seemed to care. Either we didn't match the description or they forgot about inspecting pedestrians. Well, be that as it may, I got these pictures. This is coming off the bridge at the other station on the other side. This is at also on the Rhine River Bridge. 2 of the class 3000s passing each other. And there's yet another single span arch cable stayed suspension bridge at Citadel. Again, another class 3000 tram. And this is all on Route D. Route D also has class 3000s at Havre de Fer. This is the main interchange station where all 6 of the tram lines come together. I think it's 5 or 6 of the lines. Everybody can change trams. The 2 lines intersect each other. As far as weather protection, this is the only weather protection you have. This big ring of canopy over you. In the middle, it's wide open. This one is over here. It's a class 2000. You notice the difference between the cars. This is the class 3000 with the LED lighting marker lights and the more traditional sealed beam point lights that you have in the class 2000. This is on Route B at Republic. That's some of the government and museum buildings downtown. And the next picture is you're going from the 2000s down to the 3rd class, the class 1000s, which are the original cars that Strasbourg had. Again, this is also a Republic on Route E. And to round out the whole system, This is the bus rapid transit on Route G at Espace European de Enterprise. That's the last stop loop for the bus rapid transit. Okay, we're now going to leave this part of France over here and proceed on to Lyon, which is the other city that the Motor Bus Society based themselves in. Lyon has 4 metro lines. The A, the B, which is the blue line, the A is the pink line, the C is a cog railway orange line, and the D is another metro line. The D is the newest line. It's also automated. The cars look almost identical to the ones you see in the A, B lines, but the D lines are basically designed to be driverless. They have an entire front window, much like AirTrain does for JFK AirTrain. The system is totally automatic, and you know, they're identical cars. They're just upgraded for driverless operation. They also have a small funicular. The one that was in service when we were there went to St. Just. The line that goes to Fourvière was out of service for maintenance at the time during our visits. You'll see the pictures of the system in a bit. There is a large shopping mall near where the hotel was downtown. And what we did was, some of us had lunch and meals at some of the eateries. The way I usually am, and people in the ERA conventions know me, I don't eat. To me, eating is a waste of time, because if I sat down to eat, I wouldn't get these shots. Anyways, this is a SNCF, French National Railways bi-level EMU coming out of Lyon Perrache station in the outbound direction. This is a SNCF Terre de Rhine Alps DMUs. These are diesel multiple unit trains. There's 2 of them coupled together, and they're outbound from Lyon Perrache as well. Then you have the, this is the Line C. Line C uses similar looking cars with an operator, but you notice the rack in the middle. You're dealing with at least 15 to 20% grade in some portions of the line. It's a rack railway, it's a cog railway basically, and it goes all the way to the top of the hill, overlooking the whole city. The way that the line is set at the station named Croix Paquette, the 2 trains always meet. And back here is the view looking downward. And when you turn around and go to the other platform, standing on this platform, this is what you see, the train coming out of the tunnel from the upper level. Okay, after that, line F is the funicular. You see the guide cable, the pole cables over here. And again, basically it's a single line operation. There is a passing station at the Minimes station, and the trams are designed basically based on the wires and the cables pulling the cars up and down the grade. They always meet here. So this is line F, also called F1. F2 is the line that was out of service. Now over here, Gare de Orleans, this is line B. These are the Lyon Metro cars that have to have an operator driving the train. Line A, this is a box station. This is one of the newer extensions of line B. Line A turns around at Perrache, and I was able to photograph with my telephoto deep into the tunnel where the turnaround track was. Nobody seemed to bother me shooting into the tunnel. I think if you pulled that stunt at the New York City subways, you might get questioned as to why you're shooting pictures of the infrastructure way into the tunnel. Over in Europe, they're a lot more sensible. They just let matters be. It's basically, if you want to take a picture, go right ahead. It's a beautifully maintained right away. You can see it's clean. There's no litter. It's shiny. Very, yeah, it's a nice infrastructure. Anyways, now moving from a driver system to the automated system, you notice the difference in the cars. They look the same, but guess what? No operator cab. It's an open window. Anybody can look up in the front or at the back. This is at the Vieux Lyon station going eastbound. And the next station is a nice, nicely decorated lighted station at Valmy. That's in the southbound direction. The station floor is actually glass block, and they have different color lights shooting up through it. Again, it varies in colors. I just happen to catch it with the blue lights. The interior of the cars look like this. The interesting design of the seats, they curve a little bit. And now we're going to go on to the trams. And when I was talking about that huge mall, was called the Confluence Mall. That's what the Confluence Mall looks like at nighttime. And this is a Lyon T1 series tram at the Confluence Mall. They're Citadas built by Alstom. There's two different types of trams. There's a 401 and a type 403. This is the 401s over here, the older cars. This is near the the Gare de Parc Dieu in a northbound direction. That's a T1 tram. And this is also crossing the Rhine River in the northbound direction. There's a parallel street road and sidewalk that parallels the bridge, offering these kind of views. This one is a T1 class tram. It's going inbound towards the station Perrache. It's passing St. Blandine Church. And this is the other type of tram. It's a Stadler Tango LRV. It's the only tram in Lyon that's completely different from the main tram network. This is your Airport Express. They're painted red, and they operate as a separate ticket and a separate fare. It parallels the one of the tram lines, so I rode it in parallel and got a few shots at different stations. I didn't actually ride the cars. Lyon also has articulated trolley coaches or trolley buses. Notice how the front tire, the steering tire, actually has a cover on it. This is to me that's really classy. When you cover the steerable tires with a cover. So when the bus is running straight, it's streamlined looking. That's really a touch of class. It's nice. Okay, now after we left Lyon, the convention was over. At that point, myself, my wife, and another couple extended our trip over to Geneva. This one more shot. This is the front of the bus, and that's what the back of the articulated trolley coaches look like with the trolley posts. This is a map of Geneva. The public transport map includes all the bus routes as well as the tram routes. Significance is the Route 12 that runs all the way out here. That's the one that has the older Duog cars. Because they're not double-ended, they're limited to line 12 because there's a loop at either end. The other lines basically have turn-back tracks. There's no loop. Route 12 goes down sort of down to here, and there's a turn-back loop here where all the Duogs get turned around, and they basically just run between here and here. The newer cars go all the way out. Anyways, I was able to ride just about the entire system. It's not that big of a system in Geneva. So in the process of 2 days, I was able to cover the entire system. This is one of the Stadler Tango trams on Route 12, southbound at the Carouge March. That's a nice little church building in the back, and it runs right down the street. Bombardier also supplied cars called the City Runner. And this is at Ancien, also in street running. You notice an automobile got in the way. They do have vehicular traffic on these streets. It's not a transit right away. Okay, the next one is one of the Bombardier City Runner cars at the Place des Neuves. This is also part of the old city wall in the background. You see a City Runner on Route 12, all the way out in the east end of the line, and a Tango class tram at Plain Palais. This is a nice little transfer station over here between two different lines, so they have shelters everywhere, and you can hide yourself in the elements when it's raining out. And believe me, that city of Geneva, they do get a lot of rain. We have a Tango tram over here at Avenschanz. It's also decorated in the breast cancer awareness pink colors. This is on Route 14 at the terminal station. Not a terminal station. It's one of the stations en route. I had made a photo stop out of standing on that bridge up there. There's just so many pictures I could display on here. We could be here for 4 hours. I would never even scratch the surface. Anyways, moving right along. This is a Tango class. What do you call it? A Tango by Stadler at Route 18 on CERN. This is the site of the nuclear particle accelerator for advanced physics research, and this is one of the displays that they have, and I think it might actually be part of the energy system used for it. This is one of the Tango trams passing Basilica Notre Dame de Geneva near the Hauptbahnhof, which is their main railway station. Can't say I really appreciate the paint scheme on the outside, but at least it didn't cover up all the windows. This is one of Geneva's oldest trams, the Duwags. They have 2-car trains. Usually they have a 2-section and a 3-section trailing. So there's 5 sections altogether to try and match capacity with the newer cars. But again, this is at Plaque de Nieuwe and also the old city wall in the background. You also have the Opera House in the background, again with the rear end of the Duwag. There is a Hostler's operator cab in the back, but it's not designed for regular service. That's the reason why these cars have to go on loops at the ends of the line. You have a city runner, also at the Place de Neuve by the Opera House. And there's the Opera House again. And Geneva also has trolley coaches. They have a variety, single unit and articulated. This is one of the articulated trolley coaches. This is northbound at Servette. And this is also passing Basilica Notre Dame de Geneva. This is also, again, another one of the articulated, another different model of it.
Ron, how many trolley bus lines and how many light rail lines are in Geneva?
Geneva, I think, had, they're not in consecutive order. I kind of remember it was line 14, 18, 12, 11. I think there's something like 6 lines in Geneva that are tram. And as far as the trolley coaches, there's a lot, including one that goes all the way to the airport.
So it really blankets the city then.
Yeah, the whole city is very, very well served by mass transit.
By electric mass transit.
Yeah, all electric, no, very little diesel. This is from the hotel that we had stayed in near the Hauptbahnhof. This is an aerial view of one of the articulated trams. You can see the tram tracks all over the place. And this is one of the triple sections. If you look at this bus, there's 3 sections to this bus, 1, 2, and 3. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that clown out of the way. He was reading a map. I was hoping it was just going to look quickly and move away, but he just seemed to have a reading problem or comprehension problem with the map, so he just stood there. I had no choice but to take a picture with him standing in it. Anyways, this is the combination Swiss National Railway Station and the local train and transport system is a combination interchange intermodal station at the airport. This is a Stadler EMU, electric motorable unit, at the Cornaven Hauptbahnhof. Cornaven is their main railway station at Geneva. It was raining a pretty decent amount that day when we were there. And this is also at Geneva at Cornaven, but this is the at nighttime. We were leaving way, way early in the morning to catch our flight back to New York. This is taking around about 4:30 in the morning. Anyways, moving right along, we're going to leave continental Europe, and we're now heading over to the United Kingdom. And I'm going to have to hurry through this thing. We're going to land up going to 10 o'clock, folks. Hope you guys don't mind. This is a quick overview of the London transport map. You have the Dockland Light Railways. You have the tram link that goes up towards Croydon. And you have the overground, which is the orange lines that go all around the whole city. That's like a above ground railway system that takes over. It's sort of like the London surface stock, but in the more of a railway, commuter railway type of infrastructure. Anyway, this is the London transport map. I've included a few shots, just a few samples. This is 1973 tube stock on the Piccadilly line linking Heathrow Airport with downtown. This is passing Stanford Brook. That's the interior of the 1973 tube stocks. And on the, this is again like Berlin and New York, they have narrow profile tube stock and they have subway surface stock, which is the wider cars. These are the wider cars. They've replaced all of the C and D stock as well as the A stock on the Metropolitan line, the C's and D's on the District and Circle line with these new S stock class cars. So everything on their wider, larger London surface subway stock is all the S stock now. This is the uniform car fleet that the system has. This is at Earl's Court. This is at Blackfriars. And if you want to see what the interior looks like, it's open gangway, side seating, no transfer seats anymore for higher capacity. Then we move on to the Docklands light railway system at Canary Wharf. These are the original cars in the Docklands. These are the newer cars on the Docklands light rail. This is out at the Royal Victoria Station. And then you have, we're going to go on to the tram system, which is London Tramlink. And this is coming out of Wimbledon. It goes over to Croydon, Bincham Junction, West Croydon, East Croydon. Interestingly, if you follow the green line, you go this way, and going eastbound, you'll loop around and then continue out. If you want to go westbound, you have to ride this way. So if you're at these stations, you can only go east. This is a downtown, heavily populated business area. So whatever direction you want to go to, just walk to the appropriate station. These are the, let's see, this is a London Tramlink. These are the Bombardier CR4000 Flexity Swift cars. These are the newer cars that they have at Mitcham Junction. They only have a few of these cars out. I think they have a grand total of 20 in the fleet. The rest of them are these older cars. I think I got this backwards over here. This is the new cars. These are the older cars. These are the Vario trams. These are the CR4000s from Bombardier. This is a Vario tram at East Croydon. And again, one of the CR4000 new ones at the Flexity Swifts at East Croydon. And now we're going to leave the Tramlink and quickly cover the London Northeastern Railways. These Intercity 125s are, I think they may have made their last runs. I remember seeing something in the news about these cars making their last runs. They're being replaced by new cars from Hitachi. But these are the LNER high-speed train sets, Intercity 125 at King's Cross. This is a Class 91 electric locomotive at King's Cross. Again, London Northeast Railways. London Northeast Railways and First Great Western, but both of the train sets are Intercity 125s, again at King's Cross. And if you want to see what's replacing the Intercity 125s, these are the new Azuma class built by Hitachi, replacing the IC 125s, which you see in the background. So I have basically a picture of the old and the new. Again, this is at King's Cross. This is a LNER Class 82s at King's Cross. And these are the Javelin class high-speed train sets at King's Cross. That's another railway. Private. They've opened up the tracks in England, so they have private contractors running trains in the tracks. So basically the equivalent of if Amtrak had an actual competitor that was allowed to run up and down the Northeast Corridor, as well as on other lines like the Empire Corridor. Now going on to the commuter stop, you get the Class 377. The Southern Railways at Mitcham Junction. You look to your right, that's transfer bridge that goes over to the tram link for the light rail. Southwestern Railways, 450 class EMU at Wimbledon. Again, Southwestern Railways EMUs at Clapham Junction. Clapham Junction, if you guys have never been, anybody who's never been to Clapham, next time you go to London, make sure you go to Clapham Junction during the rush hour. No matter which way you point the camera, there's a train. These are Thameslink Class 700 EMUs. This is at Blackfriars Station, which was completely rebuilt within the last few years. The interior of these cars look like this. In the reverse peak direction, you can ride first class in the coach ticket. That's why I was in here. Gatwick Express. I met through the internet and some correspondence. I met a fellow named John Hayward, and he was kind enough to meet me at his home station, Wivelsfield, and take me around in his private automobile to various some of his favorite photo locations. If somebody asked me how to get back to these locations, I couldn't tell you. But anyways, this is one of the trains coming out from the Clayton Tunnel. It's not far from Wivelsfield. It's a Gatwick Express. I wish this thing was. This picture is actually, for some reason, the full screen. I'm not going to touch the screening here because I'm going to have a problem. But this is one of the Class 700 Thameslink trains coming out of the tunnel as well. Sorry, it's out of the picture.
You don't bother. It's fine. Just keep.
Yeah, I don't want to derail this thing, so I'm
Yes,
going to keep on
please.
moving.
Please.
Yep, and he took me over to the Belcombe Ouse Valley Viaduct, and here's a Class 387 Gatwick Express and the Class 377 Southern Railways EMU crossing the viaduct. That's Southern Railways 377 class coming into Wivelsfield. Gatwick Express 387 into Wivelsfield. 2 Thameslink 700s back at Blackfriars when I returned to the station. And while I was out in the Wivelsfield area, John was kind enough to take me over to the Bluebell Railway, and we rode one of their restored steam locomotives and railway coaches. This is the 460-73082 at Sheffield Park. Leaving London, Lily and I took a ride up to Manchester, ostensibly to chase the Manchester Metrolink. They only have one classic car there. They had an original classic cars which were prematurely retired. I guess the folks in Manchester wanted one vehicle type for ease of maintenance, parts, and supply. They junked all the cars that were not even close to their life limits, or their service lives, and replaced everything with the M5000 Flexity. This is at Deansgate Castlefield. Everything here is an M5000, so I'll just, for shortening up and saving my voice, this is outbound at St. Peter's Square. This one's over at Central Park Station. The interesting design with the cable stayed suspension bridge over here. The whole station's mounted on an over valley bridge. There's actually a road down there in a river. This is at Heath and Maston. This is where the track goes from double track to single. Notice the catenary is only on this track. There's nothing over here. This is freight only. Like the River Line in New Jersey, they have temporal separation. They run freight trains at nighttime on the actual parts of the actual tram system. This again is over at St. Peter's Square. And if you want to see what the inside of these cars look like, that's what they look like on the inside. Articulation, nice inset pads. At Manchester Piccadilly Station, you have the Virgin Class Alstom 390s. These are basically the same cars you have on that Eurostar is using between London, Paris, and London, Amsterdam. These are the Class 390s from Alstom. Virgin bought a whole bunch of them. From what I understand, Virgin Railways in England is no more, and this paint scheme is going to become a thing of the past. I'm glad I got these colors. This is a Class 150 and 156 class diesel multiple unit at Manchester Piccadilly. This is a Class 323 EMU at Manchester Piccadilly again. And now from Manchester, we took a quick ride over to York to see the National Railway Museum at York. And while we were there, I spent a morning at York Station. And they have a new outfit called Grand Central Railways. They use a set of high-speed trains that are hand-me-downs from the old Britrail days, repainted them and rebranded them. So this is at York. This is the same train with a Class 185 diesel multiple units, local service. London Northeastern Railway Class 43, Intercity 125, southbound at York. And I was able to catch one of their veterans commemorative Class 91 electric locomotives at York. This commemorates all the veterans from World War II. And this is a Northern Railways Class 170 diesel multiple unit at York. Then my wife and I embarked on a boat cruise. Now, people would think when you go on a boat cruise, it's nothing but steel bands, performance shows, sunning yourself on the pool deck, and running off like a headless chicken on a various shore excursions to see historic sites. Well, my family, it was a family get-together. It was about 11 of us all together. And some of the cities I'd been to before, or I let Lily go on her own on a tour, and I went off rail fanning. So this is called how to turn a 2-week boat cruise into a rail fan extravaganza. Well, starting off over here, we have Irish Rail, Intercity Rail Mark IV. Oh, this is actually at York, so it's one more car from York. Okay, now we're in, this is in Dublin. This is slightly out of order over here. Sorry about that, but this is the Dublin system over here. The Lewis system, which is the pink line. The green line is the other Lewis line. That's the light rail. And then you have the Dart system, which is the green system over here that runs all the way down. And then you have the Irish Rail Intercity services going out of town, out in suburbs. This map should have been pushed over with Dublin, but somehow they got out of order. Sorry about that. Anyways, this is Irish Rail Intercity Railways Mark IV power cab car at Cork. That was one of our early stops on the tour. While we're doing our regular tour of York, we didn't take any organized tours. We toured the city on our own. And of course, when we're going to and from the city by train from the cruise ship terminal, I took advantage of the time and got some of the trains. In Ireland, everything is in Gaelic on top, primary, and English on the bottom. This is actually going from Cork to Dublin, Houston, which is the station at the west end of Dublin. These again are the Mark IV intercity coaches. That's the interior of the coaches. This would be the equivalent of a, I guess, a Siemens coach for a Brightline or an Amfleet 2 coach. This puts them both to shame.
Oh.
To show you how close I was at Cork, we stopped at this port town called Cobh, C-O-B-H. It's got a notoriety for being the last port that the RMS Titanic stopped at before it sailed off on its fateful voyage. They have a Titanic museum. I didn't bother with that. I was too busy rail fanning, but this is how close the cruise ship terminal is to the Irish Railways. Very, very convenient. Here's your Titanic paintings on the side. The museum's up the hill someplace. I saw the Titanic exhibit both in Canada as well as here, so I've been Titanic'd out. I don't need to see it. This is now we're in Dublin, where I saw that map before. This is the Dublin Lewis. That's the light rail system. This is a class 402 Citatis on the bridge over River Liffey. This is downtown going further out of town. This is a red line 401 class Citatis approaching Bellegarde northbound. This is a class 402. The 401s are the ones that are in the 4,000s. The 402s are in the 5,000s. This is at the Marlborough station. Notice this thing has 9 sections. You count through them all. This is on the green line now. Last time I was in Dublin a few years back, 2011, I was only able to ride the red line. Now I've had some time and I rode the green line. Again, it's near the River Liffey. A nice traditional building in the background. And the class 402 at a station called Dundrum. And right near the Dundrum station, at the station house you see in the background, ticket vending machines. Of course, they're protected by a weatherproof cover. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow too hard. This is a cable stayed suspension bridge over a major highway. There's no river down there. It's just basically a bridge over a highway. There's a pedestrian bicycle path on one side and the tram tracks on the other. This is the interior of the Citatus 402. And now we're going to go away from the light rail and get onto the dark commuter rail system. These are the DART class. Okay, this is going to be the DART system 8600. This is at Pierce. This is one of the oldest railway stations in the Dublin Lewis system, by the way. It's an enclosed station. They're about to tear the whole thing apart and restore it to its former grandeur. What you're looking at is basically a bare bones primitive structure that they're not proud of. This is going to be vastly improved in the next 5 years. That's the interior of the older, the newer 8600s. These are the air-conditioned coaches. The older cars, again at Pierce Station, these are not air-conditioned. These are, I forgot what year they're built, but they're part of the original cars that the DART system bought back in the, here it goes, 1984. This is at Pierce. That's the interior, the unair-conditioned 1984 built cars. They come in pairs, these cars, the 8100s and the 8300s. One's a motor, one's a trailer. They're not all powered. This is at the Howth terminal. There's a little railway and transportation museum in the seaside resort town of Howth on the green line of the DART system. This is at the Connolly station. You have the older 8300 series in 1984 and the newer 8600s. Aside from the car number, the 8300s have 3 windows up front, 86s and 85s have the 2 windows up front. It's one of the older 8300s at the Connolly. And you have an Irish Rail 29,000 series intercity train coming into Dublin Connolly. And a Great Northern Railway Howth tram that I was at the museum that out in Howth to take a look at. Wonderful museum. It's got trams, double-deck buses. I'm showing the 2 tram shots right now. Nice little compact museum. I was quite happy going there. The next stop on the ship was Belfast. Belfast has a small commuter rail system, and they also have a bus rapid transit. This is their bus rapid transit glider bus. They're Van Hool articulated. They have 2 different routes, G1 and the G2. This is at the. This is by the by their main museum in Belfast. That's out in the outlying terminal at Dundonald Park at the terminal loop. And if you want to see what the inside of the bus looks like, that's the interior. You have Northern Ireland Railways Class 4000s. There's 2 classes of commuter rail. These are the Class 4000 diesel multiple units. There's a street that passes over the Lanyon Place station, and it provides a very nice photo vantage point with a little bit of the city skyline in the background. These are the Class 4000s. Another shot of the 4000s at the Lanyon Place station. These are the older Class 3000s, again at Lanyon Station. And that's another shot of the older 3000s. And Belfast has a variety of buses. They have single level buses, and they have the double deck buses. The next stop on the ship was Glasgow. Glasgow is famous for having this clockwork orange subway line. It's a 2-track railroad, much like Berlin. You have one line that goes clockwise, and you have the other line that goes counterclockwise. This is more of a geographically correct map that's accurate, showing all the curves of the line and the actual geography, how it navigates through downtown Glasgow. The main railway station is down over here at Glasgow Central. At the Kaden Station, what do you call it, St. George's. Anyways, most of the stations on the Clockwork Orange are island platform. There's only one station that has a side platform design. That's over here at Partick. And over by Partick is near, is also where the line switches off and it goes to the maintenance yard, and it's a crew change point. The crews change shifts at that station when they come in. One driver gets off, another driver gets on. Anyway, this is a blow up of the system line over here. The inner circle goes counterclockwise, outer circle goes clockwise. Partick Station is also an interchange stop with Irish Rail, the what do you call it, the Brit Rail, Intercity UK Railway, ScotRail. The cars that I was able to photograph during this visit are actually the second set of cars that the Glasgow subway has. They're not long for the world. This is a prototype of the new Glasgow subway cars that will be coming in at some point in the not too distant future. I'm not sure the line's going to be automated, but yeah, the cars look completely different from what you have now. And here's the cars that are on the line right now. They're tiny. If you think the London tube stock cars are small, these are even smaller. Compare the passenger standing over here on the other platform. This platform is exactly the same height on this side as on this side. Look how tall this fellow is. If he stood up in the doorway and the door closed, it'd be like a guillotine. His head will be sticking outside. Anyways, this is over here at the Kaden Station. There was one car, yeah, that's the interior of the cars. Look how low ceiling these things are. Nice little system. It's just very, very, if you're claustrophobic, you might have a problem down here. This is at the Partick station, the only side platforms are not island platform designs. The cars are here posed side by side. This is across the station view of it. And this is also at the, I believe this one is the Kaden Station, island platform. You'll find most of the stations on Glasgow subway are island platform, just like this. This is at St. George's Cross. That's one of the older paint schemes of the cars. Same cars, slightly different paint. This again is over at the Partick station at the intermodal system where you can transfer the Brit Rail. And upstairs you have the Partick intermodal station and double deck buses. And off to the side, out of sight, is a connection to ScotRail. And yeah, this is a later on the ship went up to see Loch Ness. Of course, I didn't see the Loch Ness monster, but we stopped at Invergordon, which is a port stop, and there's a little train station there with service that runs about every 3 hours on Headway. So I timed up the schedule, did my souvenir shopping with the wife, sent her packing back onto the ship, and I stood out in the train station to get 2 or 3 trains. So this is a Class 158 diesel multiple units at the Invergordon station. Again, another picture of it leaving with a quaint, nice little bridge and a church tower in the back. And notice the painting of the station on the side. It's almost like they're saying goodbye to soldiers during World War II. There's a whole bunch of murals on the side of the station building itself. And this is the interior of the Class 158 DMU. The next stop on the ship was Edinburgh in Scotland. And they have one tram line. They have a commuter rail system and a intercity rail system, the ScotRail. But this is the tram line that they have in operation right now. It goes up to York Place and stops. The line is supposed to go all the way around and eventually out of Edinburgh Gateway. I think there's supposed to be another, oh, the stadium here. Murrayfield Stadium, there's supposed to be another line that comes out and around. So form a giant circle. That's something to be done in the future when, I guess, the economy permits it. Right now, there's no money. This is a schematic of what they have in the system. The station names are changed. They go past St. Andrew. This is no longer Picardy Place. It's called York. And here, from here on out, this is still under construction. You can see the construction busily coming along. So I imagine within a year or two, they'll go all the way to New Haven. This is the operator's console of the Edinburgh CAF Herbals LRV. They're built by CAF, Herbals class. That's the interior. And this is the Edinburgh light rail at Edinburgh Park. There's an interchange station here with ScotRail. That's the head house of the ScotRail station. You'll see some pictures from up there in a few minutes. This is also again the at the Giles Center inbound, as trains are going inbound. Everything, you know, you always got to remember in the UK things run left-handed. This train is coming at you. This is a Haymarket. And this is also, over here is a transit way, no automobiles permitted, but the transit way is flooded with double-deck buses. So you gotta be very careful if you stand out in the track bed that you don't get run over by a bus. This is the Herbals CAF LRV near the Princess Street Station. There's a nice little classic art column building over here. It's historic. And down at the Edinburgh Waverley Station, that's their main railway station. That's Scotland's version of Grand Central Terminal. This is a ScotRail Class 43 IC 125 and a Class 334 EMU next to it for commuter service. These are two Class 334 EMUs at Edinburgh Waverley. The Class 385, these are the newer cars, inbound at Edinburgh Park. When you were looking at that light rail picture before with the station head house, this is the view from the overpass. This is the Class 334, again at Edinburgh Park. And ScotRail Class 170 inbound at Haymarket. This is also an interchange stop from downtown. Instead of going all the way to Waverley, you can get off here at Haymarket and transfer to the tram system and go back out again. Where the cruise ship docked for Edinburgh was actually about a half an hour out of town. You had to take ScotRail in. While the cruise ship company offered for $20 round-trip transfers downtown by convenient shuttle bus, I made a climb that was roughly around about 500 foot in elevation, all the way up to the station called Dalmany, and caught some of these Class 170 diesel multiple units. In the background, you see this red structure. That's the fifth or fourth bridge. It's famous. Goes across the fifth or fourth. Here's another view of it. Train's coming at you. Remember, everything is left-hand running. I was able to get a nice little lead here. This is the Firth or fourth bridge during the daytime. The cruise ship is parked, it's anchored out in the bay here off the side. That's the picture. But you have to imagine you're boarding at, you're getting ashore at sea level. I literally had to walk up a pathway that went all the way up to this level to get the train. This is what it looks like at night. The train is not going at 1,000 miles per hour. It's a time exposure. Then the last stop of the cruise ship was in Le Havre in France. And this is a map of the two lines in Le Havre that goes from the beach past the Hotel de Ville, and that's where the ship shuttle buses dropped us off. And there's two lines that goes, one on line B, and the red line is line A. Generally, you can walk across. These two stations are well, maybe 500 feet apart. This is the Le Havre Alstom LRVs at the Palais de Justice. That's their courthouse. And this is at the Hotel de Ville westbound, passing some of the French. There's a fountain in the foreground. I'll show you that in a couple of minutes. There's a nice display of French flags. There's a side view of the fountain over here. There must have been something to do with a remnant from some, I guess, a pride parade of some sorts. It's in rainbow colors. And I guess they left it up there as a part of a permanent display. It seems pretty permanent to me. It actually makes a nice little accentuation of the city. It's quite nice. There's a whole fountain in the back here. They spray higher, lower. It's quite nice. This is at the La Plage. This is down by the beach. Again, these are the Alstom LRVs. And this is at Gare de Havre. This is the main railway station at Havre, France. This city, Havre, is also where the SS France used to sail out from to go to New York on its old transatlantic runs back in the 40s and 50s. These are the oldest, or some of the oldest electric locomotives in France, the Class 115 electric locomotive. This is also inside the train shed at Gare de Havre. Some of the cab cars, the single level cars. And a multi-level cab car, some of the newer generation cars. posed next to a whole bunch of Class 115s. That takes care of the European portion. We're going to shift gears now real quick, and we're going to go through about maybe 30 images from, from Asia. Fortunately for myself, I had an opportunity to go and travel and have an actual decent, real, genuine vacation in the year 2020. We had a deeply discounted boat cruise consisting of two-week cruises back to back. So we actually booked ourselves on a ship for 28 days. We sailed out of Singapore and eventually landed up in Japan. We started in Singapore, got there a couple of days early. We went to Changi Airport. They have this thing called the Jewel. It's a giant, totally climate-controlled, enclosed shopping mall. You'll see in a second. This is the airport people mover. T3 is where the metro comes in, Singapore MRT. And you can ride the people mover all the way around. This is what it looks like. This is completely enclosed. It looks like a jungle forest, but it's all watered, artificial. Everything in Singapore is basically manicured and artificial. There's nothing natural about it, but it looks beautiful. This is they use Mitsubishi Crystal Mover cars for their people mover. They call it SkyTrain. This is inside the Jewel. There's a giant waterfall that comes out of the ceiling. You'll see that in a second. But this is a nice little flyover shot. I just happened to get lucky to get these a train over another train. It's all rubber tired. It's a people mover system. This entire thing is a waterfall. This is the airport. This is the
in the airport, right?
This is Changi Airport in Singapore.
I got this is a people mover for Changi. Okay, got it.
Right, and it passes right through the Jewel, and it stops at either end where you can get off and go shopping. Singapore Changi Airport has become a destination into its own. A lot of Singapore residents, they're not flying anywhere. They'll take a train, an MRT ride out to the airport just to go and spend a day in the park-like atmosphere. It's the equivalent of, say, a New Yorker going to Central Park to enjoy the day. And in Singapore's heat and humidity, this is a welcome respite. It's kept at a nice 75 degrees Fahrenheit all year round, which is hard to achieve in Singapore if you've ever been there. You've got 90 degrees and matching humidity and no wind. Anyways, moving right along from the Changi Airport People Mover, this is the Singapore MRT Rapid Transit map. The gray over here are people mover lines using Mitsubishi Crystal people movers. This gray line over here uses Bombardier technology people movers. I was here in 2016. I gave an ERA show on that. But I wanted to ride some of the extensions. The blue line, city line that comes over this way, this is all brand new. And the line was extended from Joo Koon all the way to Tuas Link up the shipyards. So I wanted to ride them. And this is a shot of the Singapore type C-151 westbound on the east-west green line at Kalang with the Singapore skyline in the back. This is C-151A built by Kawasaki in 2011, eastbound at Dover. This is the only station on the Singapore SMRT that's side platform design. Everything else is an island platform. So if anybody wants to ever goes to Singapore and wants across the platform views, go to Dover on the green line. This is a C-151, again at Dover. And it's C-151B. That's the newest cars built in China from CRRC entering Jurong East Junction for the green and red line transfer. Notice the simplified end treatment, just all white with an orange striping down the side as opposed to what these cars look like. This one over here is a Kawasaki Kinkishario rebuilt by Rotem as a C-151. And you have a few more down here. These are Siemens C651 classes built in 1994 in the east-west line, west of Queenstown. And this is like the equivalent of East 180th Street or Rockaway Junction, Singapore style. You have the Green Line train at Jurong East in the foreground, and another Green Line train in the distance coming at you. One on the left is going away, the one on the right is coming at you. The left side one is a C651 built by Siemens, and the C151 built by CRRC. Going to the people movers, you have the what do you call it, the Mitsubishi automated people mover, Crystal CA10 class people mover cars. Then you have the very similar, if you've been to Miami, these are almost the same cars built by Bombardier. This is called a C801 class automated people mover at the Keat-Hong station on the Bukit Panjang LRT. And they've come up with new modernized cars. They're called C801 class, also built by Bombardier. Miami's Metro Mover went to a slightly newer design, but this is sort of like an intermediate. Now from here, we're now going to go over to Hong Kong. This is the Hong Kong MTR map. You have a variety of lines over here in the guide. There's about a dozen rail lines and subway lines here, most of which are below ground. A few of them were above ground, like out in the eastern end of the Red Line, out towards Disney, Hong Kong, and out towards the airport. These are all above ground. This line is above ground too. And so is this green line over here towards the end. The rest of the system is pretty well underground. Anyways, reason why I went to the Hong Kong MTR is this little pale green line called the South Island line. The automated rail line, no driver. They have an attendant on board to make sure nothing goes wrong, but there's no driver on board, no operator. They operate in 3-car units instead of the 10-car trains. Eventually, this green line is going to extend all the way over to Kennedy Town. It's going to come off the South Island and go up this way. They're still building it. Anyways, at the Ocean Park station, this is the only place you can take pictures of this train above ground. Every other station is below ground or an island platform that renders photography impossible. So these are the 3-car automated units. That's the interior. You can actually stand here and look out the front windows. This is not an operator's looking over anybody's shoulder. This is the window that looks outside. Utilitarian stainless steel seating. That's some of the Rotem Mitsubishi interiors of the main MTR train sets are 10 cars long. These are the fare gates at Ocean Park. They have tap cards, contactless payment, handicap access. For those of you who are familiar with CBTC on New York City Transit and the issues that they had with transponder issues on the number 7 line, this is how Hong Kong does it. They don't have snow or ice, but they do have monsoonal rains. And they cover the transponders with these little covers over here. The plastic in the middle here enables the signal to transmit clearly, but yet is protected from the elements. Also, as a form of noise control, the noise barrier, as well as wind, this line can continue to operate even during a minor typhoon. The entire elevated trackway is enclosed. So literally, it's a tube suspended on pillars above the ground. It's a very interesting way of doing it. While I was in Hong Kong in January, this is after the riots they had. There's a lot of, in certain stations, there's a lot of damage. The ticket vending machines are all broken. You can see the signs here. You have to go to a single-use ticket machine. The main cards that you use for the Oyster card that you have in Hong Kong, that's the Oyster or Octopus. You have to refill them at 7-Elevens. You can't refill them at the Hong Kong railway stations because the machines are all smashed or not functional. It's a shame. It's a beautiful system, and unfortunately, with all the civil unrest, a lot of the things don't work. Here's a turnstile. This was vandalized. What normally happens is you tap your card, it tells you how much is left on your Octopus card. The displays are all smashed out, so it doesn't tell you anything anymore. So it leaves you in a guessing game as to how much value you have on your card. I did take a ride all the way up to the new territories, rode the light rail. This is a map of the light rail system. This is the one of the MTR lines that comes all the way up to Tyonne. It has a station here, an interchange, another interchange, and finally it's the third interchange with the light rail system. So what I did was I rode all the way out here and rode around the light rail system all the way around, and then hooked back up with the MTR over here and rode back to the city. But as I was doing this, this is the New Territories Phase 1 LRV, built by Coming in 1988. This is at Tyonne's terminal station. This is your interchange with the last stop at the MRT. These other cars were built about 9 years later by A. Goninen, 1997. This is all the way out in that Tyonne station. This is again the Coming cars from 1988 at Tyonne. Everything in Hong Kong is vertical. You know, these are all residential apartment towers. Another one of the Coming cars at Tyonne coming across the terminal loop. And now we're into the Hong Kong double-deck tourist trams. On Hong Kong Island, they still have the old-fashioned double-deck trams. They are single truck. It's like a double-deck Bernie, literally. Nice ride. If you're riding at the ends of the car, it'll shake you around some. The track geometry is not bad, but there is a lot of bouncing around. Hong Kong has a fleet of, I think, 2 of these tourist trams where the top deck is cut away for the tourists to ride at a very, very high fare. If you want to get a cheap ride for about $1.60 end to end, ride one of the regular cars, wait around until the front seat opens, and have at it. Just bring your camera, drop the window sash down, and have fun. This is downtown Hong Kong. Some of these are the double-deck trams. There's a giant circular pedestrian bridge affording lots of overhead views. Citibank is over there. Hong Kong is actually rebuilding some of the trams. They put foldable, biparting folding doors on the trams so the elements don't get inside. They actually have fare gates inside instead of the old-fashioned turnstiles. So they're in the process of rebuilding some of these 100-year-old trams. The motors and components are rehabilitated. The car bodies are basically replaced, and they reinstall all the motors back into they basically resurrect these trams by giving them a totally new body. Again, some of the other rebuilt trams. All of them are shrink wrapped in various advertisements for revenue. This is what the trams look like. They've been rebuilt. They have the European style inward facing windows. So in Hong Kong's frequent monsoonal rains, the water doesn't come in with the old fashioned drop sash. New benches, new chairs, new fluorescent tube lighting. This is what the cars used to look like. So this is, you can tell, this is a definite huge improvement. On the new cars that have been rebuilt, you have the folding doors that protect everything. These are your fare gates. The Hong Kong tram system is pay as you exit. So when you walk in, there's a sensor over here that senses you coming in. These panels flop open and allow you entrance into the car. To exit, you got to go by the operator. The older cars, you have a simple old turnstile. So there's a big difference between the rebuilt and the original. And that's what the original cars looked like before they've been rebuilt. And this is now a little bit more over here with the last section of the show in Asia. A little seen system that very few rail fans have gone to. I don't think too many people in the audience here have seen Taipei, Taiwan's rapid transit system. It's basically 6 lines, 4 metro rapid transit. One's an intermediate capacity train system. One is a Val technology rubber tire, and one is light rail. The light rail line is this little pink line over here, plus another light rail line or rail line that goes to the airport. These are owned by separate companies. The Taipei Metro basically covers the highlighted lines, the brown, the orange, the yellow. Incidentally, when I was in Taipei on the 31st of January, I happened to catch opening day of the yellow line from here all the way down over to here, this section. This yellow line is going to become the circle line. It's going to go all the way to the whole city, make a circle. This is stage 1. I happened to be there on opening day. And I was actually on the first train out of this station at the transfer of the Blue Line. Anyways, moving along, we're going to go to the light rail system, which is this little pink, faint pinkish line over here. This is a separate company. The Taipei Tamsui Danhai light rail car. Not sure exactly who built them, but they're nice light rail cars. They're brand new. The line is relatively new. This is the turnback track at the Kanding, and this is another picture of it at Tamsui Station. Now, getting onto the Taipei Metro, we're on the red line, and this is there's two types of cars on this particular line. The Type 381, which is the newer cars, and this is built by Kawasaki in 2010. This is at Guangzhou. Notice the platform gates. Thank goodness they're not full height, so I was able to shoot over the top, and you can see the mounts of the gates. I'm actually got the camera hanging over it a little bit. The most important thing you got to remember is they have an intrusion system in on these lines. If you're going to photograph, you can put your camera as far as these gates and these pillar posts. Do not go inside here. There's some kind of a system that detects any kind of intrusion. Woe to you in these countries if you should put your camera over there and cause a service shutdown. You don't want to go there. So this is a Type 381. This is a Type 301, I should say, built by Kawasaki in 1992. Again, also at Guangzhou Station. That's Type 301 with the station head house in the back and the transfer mezzanines. Then I went over to the yellow line. This is on inauguration day. This is also a intermediate capacity rail system. They're not really a full subway. It's sort of like a Scarborough LRT on steroids. To me, this is basically what Vancouver should use if they ever decide to expand their SkyTrain system and make a longer train. Instead of having unitized sets, you can have a unitized four-car set here, instead of having 2 or 3 trains put together. Anyways, this is the yellow line. These are Hitachi Breda cars. And this is at Xinpu Minxing on opening day on January 31st. This is opening day colors at Xinpu Minxing as I was leaving the station. And the next line is a Val Technology. This is the, what do you call it, the Taipei Metro's brown line. They use Innovia 256s, rubber-tired light rail cars built by Bombardier in 2006. This is a Val 256. And you also have, what do you call it, the older Bell cars. And these are the original cars that were built for the Brown Line years and years ago. These were built in 1993. When I call years and years ago, in Taipei sense, their entire rapid transit system is barely 30-something, 40-some-odd years old. So everything there is relatively new to us. But to them, these are the old cars. Again, some more 256s, the Vals. And these are the commuter trains in Taiwan. Taiwan Railway Administration, TRA. They're called EMU 800s. And this is at Keelung Terminal. It's about a 45-minute ride out of Taipei. This is where the cruise ships dock. It's a little town called Keelung. If you're transit savvy, you can ride the trains in and out of Taipei. While we're there on the 31st, of course, we're on a cruise ship. We're not aware that this thing called coronavirus is running around. And at that point, they had already mandated mask use on the Taipei Metro. Because we were tourists, I guess they really didn't bother us. We were running around these trains with no mask. We were the only people with no mask in the train. Everyone else is completely covered up. Anyways, these are the EMU 800s. You have the conductor standing here, the guard, he gets into here once the train leaves. That's the interior of your EMU 800s. And after that, another transit stop was in Kagoshima in Japan. And these are the trams. And Kagoshima basically is a city where they accumulated trams as hand-me-downs from various cities. They ordered a few new ones for themselves, but for the most part, they seem to have inherited or purchased used secondhand from many other cities that either closed down tram lines, got new cars, or whatever. Kagoshima is basically a rolling collection of different cars. I hate to be in the mechanical department. No cars are alike, no parts are alike. It must be expensive. Anyways, these are 3 trams at the Kagoshima Station Terminal. This is one of them on the median right away. This is one of the newer cars that they have. They have the older green and yellow cars at Kagoshima Chuekime with the Ferris wheel. Those of you who are on the ERA Japan trip, we stayed in a hotel right across the street from the station. So as I say, the guilty always come back to the original scene of the crime. So I was back here again. And these are some of the newer cars with the Ferris wheel in the back. Car 9512 has a completely different interior. It's almost like a rolling museum, even though it's a modern tram car. This is what's inside: traditional cushioned seats, simulated wicker and wooden seats, hoops for straps, a wooden interior. It's a very nicely decorated car. This is at nighttime, double articulated. The cab is articulated. The passenger section in the middle is not. Again, with a Ferris wheel at night. And then from there, the next stop was Naha, Okinawa, which I don't think too many people have been to. They have a nice little monorail system on the line. It's called UI Rail, Y-U-I Rail. It's basically got 19 stations. It's not a novelty. It's not like the Seattle monorail or other monorail systems. It's an actual real transit line, much like they have in Tokyo. People use it not just to get to the airport, but to get from point A to point B all on the line. Anyways, this is the route map. Where the cruise ship docked was at station number 8 at the prefecture. And we went all the way down to line 1, which is the airport. Basically, all I rode was this section over here. I never did get over here because we ran out of time. I didn't want to miss the boat. Anyways, this is the monorail. Single guideway, rides on top. This is the only car running around that's in this original paint scheme. This is departing the Subugawa station. Keep in mind, again, everything is left-hand running. This train is going away from you. This is one of the UE rail trains inside of Subugawa station. This is the only station that I saw that had side platforms, not island platforms. So I got some nice views of it. Again, they have platform gates. They coordinate with the doors and the cars. This is a prefectural office station. Again, the monorail going eastbound. And if you don't like it by daytime, you can see it by night. Kashikojima is a station where they have the famous Japanese pearl divers. And we had a tour of the pearl divers. And of course, while we were waiting for the ferry boat to take us over there, of course, I went to the train station. Here's one of their scenic glass dome sightseer express cars on the Kintetsu line. This is one of their more traditional Kintetsu line commuter cars. And from here, this is when the trip kind of fell apart, because after we left Okinawa, it was determined that on the ship, there was a passenger who had disembarked in Hong Kong who had coronavirus. And they started checking the people on the ship before it got to Yokohama, Japan. 30 people were exhibiting symptoms. They figured, okay, maybe 1 or 2, or hopefully nobody has it. They checked. Of the 30 people tested, 10 of them had the coronavirus. Instantly, the ship became a pariah. And we were left out in the middle of the harbor for a couple of days until the Japanese decided what to do with us. I think Japan would have sent us on a merry way out of Japanese waters, except that the second portion of the cruise that I was on was basically a Japanese tour ship. It's a gambling cruise. Apparently gambling is not allowed in Japan, but Japanese like to go on cruise ships to go to Vietnam and whatnot in Hong Kong. They have gambling on the ships. So about 1,200 of the passengers were Japanese. That's almost half the passenger complement. So even though the ship became a pariah, the Japanese government couldn't politically, realistically turn away 1,200 of their own citizens. So we got the preferential treatment. We were docked at the Yokohama eventually, and we spent a number of days quarantined in our cabin in the ship. My recommendation in this coronavirus era, if you're gonna go on a cruise ship, spring for a balcony cabin, because I felt sorry for the poor slobs that had an interior cabin. Everyone was confined to their cabins and not even allowed to step out to the hallway for 14 days, except for a 1-hour break every other day to get some fresh air. If people came out of there with claustrophobia, I wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, towards the end of our quarantine, CDC determined that the quarantine practices they had in the ship were not effective. And a decision was made at the highest levels of the State Departments and possibly up to the executive branch to quote unquote rescue 320 mostly retired American citizens out of harm's way, which was on an infected cruise ship in Japan. Just to give you an example, that cruise ship eventually, as we were going along and getting more worried by the day, we saw ambulances pulling up, sometimes 90 at a time. The captain would give an announcement how many ambulances and how many cases were positive and they needed to be removed to local hospitals in Japan. For those of you who were on the Japanese tour for the ERA, some of the victims, as they ran out of the room locally, were taking all the way up to where Phil Craig rested his soul, where he had disembarked. I forgot the name of the station again. But the bottom line is they had to move people to hospitals almost 150 miles away. It's like a cruise ship stuck in the west side of Manhattan and they're sending you to hospitals up in Albany, New York. It was horrible. Anyways, of the 2,600 passengers and 1,050 crew, with about 3,700 some odd people on board, at the very end, 715 people were infected. That's basically a 20% infection rate, which is, my wife just told me 13 passed away. Is on a percentile basis, that's far worse than Wuhan, China. That's how bad it was. Anyways, the State Department arranged for 2 747 converted freighters to come get us at Tokyo Haneda Airport. We were whisked off the ship after multiple delays and fits and starts. We were finally allowed to board these 2 airplanes and head back to our evacuation centers in either Travis Air Force Base, California, or Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. These are some shots I took from the shuttle bus of us before we got on the planes. This is the meal service you have in the airplane. Keep in mind, this is a converted freighter 747. This is the interior. I don't think too many of you guys have ever flown on an airliner like this. No at-seat entertainment, no overhead racks, no overhead lights, no flight attendant call buttons, no air vents, and most importantly, no emergency oxygen masks. The airplane had to fly at 27,000 feet because if we had an explosive or decompression incident, 27,000 feet was low enough that the pilots could dive the plane back down below 15 to 12,000 feet before killing anybody in the airplane. Cruising at 33,000, by the time we got down to 12,000 feet in the controlled dive, most of the passengers wouldn't be alive anymore. So they cruised along at 27,000 feet all the way across the Pacific. It's a freighter. This is basically you're in the belly of a beast. And what they did was they had CDC personnel. This is a biolab inside here. It's pressurized. They have a positive pressure inside. The crew would go inside, close the pressurized door, and it would be like an airlock to go inside, and they can do test samples and lab work inside, then repressurize the equalize to come back out. CDC staff was on board. While they may not be shocking scenes to anybody nowadays, basically, this is what the airplane looked like. Notice no carpeting on the floors, just open 30-gallon trash cans for garbage. That's my seat over here. Lily's red jacket and my blue jacket. I had a window seat. Haha, there's no windows. That's another minus. This is what you saw on the airplane. Right after takeoff, once we got to 27,000 feet, they started checking everybody's temperatures and physical conditions. And they had these CDC guys in complete biohazard hazmat gear. The ones that directly contact the passengers had to wear this. The ones that are just taking records were just wearing protective clothing and face masks. They were measuring everybody's body temperature and seeing whether they had sneezes, that their eyes were watering, they exhibited any kind of symptoms of sickness. There was a section of the airplane which I nicknamed the penalty box, which you'll see in a couple of minutes. If anybody became ill during the flight, they would be removed from their seat and placed in the penalty box seating area to be isolated from the rest of the passengers to try, quote unquote, avoid contaminating everybody else in the airplane. Anyways, this is one of the CDC workers in the complete breather unit. You see the intake filters and the hose going up to ventilate them. They're trading off data, each passenger's names. That's the intake units of 3 different types of filters. They were telling me basically this is a NBC suit, nuclear, biological, and chemical warfare suit. Each of these filters are designed to filter out either chemical, biological, or nuclear particles. How they filter out the germs, I have no idea. They say it did. Anyways, they were checking everybody with ear thermometers, unlike the standard checks you're starting to see in different office buildings and public facilities, where they just aim a infrared sensor at your forehead. That's not 100% accurate. If you're sweating and you're in a colder environment and a cold breeze blows across you from an air conditioner or a cold breeze outside, your temperature is going to dive. You'll never, if you test positive for a fever on your forehead and you've been exposed to cold air, you really are pretty sick. Consistently with those forehead readers, I test out when they're about 94 to 95 Fahrenheit. I should be going to hypothermia with those numbers. But the best way to do it is to use the ear thermometer. Everybody's ears got probed. Between each person, they took the probe, they had the cover off and replaced it with a new one. That's why it took hours to do on the airplane.
Ron, before you go on, could you comment, was that an air freighter? Was it a military aircraft? I see some questions in the chat. You know,
sure. This is a Boeing 747-400 BS BCF convertible freighter. It's designed to carry freight, but it's also designed to be a convertible freighter. The floor panels that separate the belly cargo section from the main cabin are what they call convertible. You can lift the floor panels. One side has the tracks to slide seat sections up and down and lock them in place. If you want to go back to freighter, you remove all the seats, then you get each section of the floor, turn them over, and you have all those little wheelies in the bottom that spin around, and you can move cargo pallets up and down the fuselage. That's how they convert it. They can carry cargo pallets on both levels of the plane, downstairs as well as upstairs on the main deck.
Was it U.S. Air Force or who was the operator? Some Subutai is asking.
It's Khalida Air. It's a civilian contract carrier for the military. That's how a lot of our goods go over to the Middle East for tanks and what they call Humvees and whatnots and supplies that go to support all the different military extravaganzas we got going on over there.
So the military's managing it. It's just the operator was not military.
Right. The pilots and the flight crews are civilian, but they're under contract to the military. That's how we landed up with these guys. Anyways, this is my poor wife, Lily, getting her temperature checked before she passed. When I first sent out these pictures in early March before coronavirus became pandemic in the United States, these pictures basically had a huge amount of shock value. Now coming in nearing July, not so much. That's actually a pretty sad statement to make when you consider this to be the new norm. Anyways, this is the bio lab they had from the CDC. You notice the seat tracks you have on here that actually hold the mounts for the 16G seats that they have. That's a new federal standard. They have to take 16 gravities G-force before they separate from the floor. What they did was they bound these things with straps. This lab is basically a converted cargo ship container with a laboratory, converted into a laboratory on the inside. But this is basically designed to be on a container ship. You see all the little the holes in the top here designed to be lifted and hoisted onto ships. It's a container. Anyways, this is how the CDC personnel did their work inside. Somebody developed a major medical emergency. They would put the person inside. There's a separate lab on the other side with another door, and that was what they call negative pressure. And if the person was in there, the air basically vented directly outside the airplane, and all the air that supplied that room came from the passenger cabin, so that any germs inside the lab would never get out. This is looking towards the rear of the plane. Any of you who are old enough to remember the old, when they first came out with the 747s and the DC-10s, remember this thing called a coach lounge and first class lounge with a piano bar? Well, this is about the closest I ever got to it. Because we only had to carry 200 seats on the airplane for about 160 passengers. There were a lot of empty seats, only families sat together. Otherwise, everybody had to sit in alternating seat patterns. These are all your supplies. These are your masks, your food, your soda. They're all inside. These are your toilet compartments. This is basically a giant fold-up cargo door. You unlatch from the bottom, the whole thing swings outwards and up as a cargo door that you can load pallets of freight into when there's no seats. You're looking towards the tail cone, the aft pressure bulkhead at the very rear of the plane. This is the penalty box. If you became sick during the flight, which is 12 hours and 12 minutes long, they put you in the penalty box, which is basically mylar sheets put together with duct tape to seal in the germs. If anybody was coughing or sneezing, it was assumed that it would never get above this barrier that was 10 feet up in the air. That kind of matches with the 6-foot separation, social separation standards we have now. But anyways, I certainly would not have wanted to sit in these seats right next to the contaminated or the suspect contaminated. But you can see the seating over here with the tracks for the seats. This is how they mounted everything in. This is some of the containers. You notice the door in the back here, there's no emergency slide. It's missing. On the 747, there's 5 doors on each side because this is a converted freighter and apparently exempt from FAA and the international air safety rules. There was only 2 doors in the plane, one under the nose on the main level and one at the very rear.
Ron,
Yes.
That's a question, 2 questions. One is, were you freely allowed to get up and walk around and stretch or not? And the other question was, did anyone actually during that flight go into the penalty box?
Yes and yes. During the flight, so long as you wore a mask, you were able to get up, go to the bathroom, go to the back of the plane, congregate, talk to people through your mask, and try and stay 4, 5, 6 feet apart. I'll tell you one thing. Of all the long-haul flights I've ever taken in my life across the ocean, this one went by the fastest. I got about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours of sleep on the plane. But the other times I was awake, I was able to get up, socialize with some of the fellow passengers that I'd gotten to know on the airplane. The flight went very quickly. Before I knew it, the 12 hours was up. We were coming down in Texas. The other thing is, we did have around about 8 people who fell ill during the flight, whether they stressed out or actually became ill. They were put into the penalty box, and when we got to Texas, all of us got off the plane except for the ones in the penalty box. They were instructed to stay in their seats, stay in the confined area. And after the plane refueled, they sent them on up to Omaha, Nebraska, where there was a CDC infectious diseases center up there for special handling. So those people never saw the light of day in Texas. They were shipped immediately up to Nebraska, Offutt Air Force Base, to be taken care of up there. That's how they handled it. So we actually did have people get sick in the airplane coming back. They did 2 temperature checks, 2 hours after takeoff, which took about 3 hours to do. And about 2 hours before we got to Texas, they ran another series of temperature checks. And each time they ran through in the temperature checks, for some reason, they picked out a few more people were escorted to the back of the plane where the penalty box was and sat in there. So basically speaking, in the span of 12 hours of the 160 passengers, we lost 8 of them. They got sick. They became symptomatic. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
I, for one, don't really know. I might, when I have a chance to, when I get through doing all the emergency responders and healthcare workers, when it becomes available to the general public, I'm going to run out and get one of those antibody tests. I have reason to believe after my first visit to Hong Kong, I might have actually come down with this thing and recovered. Recovered in times that I tested negative for the virus by the Japanese on February 15th. but I was sick as a dog from the 17th to the 19th of January, which gave me enough time to fully recover and eject all the virus out of my system so I could pass a test on the 15th of February before flying home. So I don't know whether I've ever had the coronavirus or not. I would say 50-50. I probably had it. I was running all over the place in Hong Kong with no masks, no protection, just like riding a New York City subway last year. And with all the open gangway cars and all the wind blowing up and down, it's not inconceivable that I caught this thing. I have no idea. The test is going to tell me, and now I'm hearing this test is not 100% accurate. So I'll take it with a grain of salt. If I test positive, it'll be a slightly comforting thought to know that I probably won't get it again, though it's not 100% sure. But if it's a negative, then I have to continue taking precautions. That's all it really boils down to. Anyways, these are your toilets. They basically kit bashed a bunch of airline toilets and put about 4 of them together back to back. There was 8 of them all together. These are the floor areas. These are some of the freight cargo pallets. This is your walking area. They told people if you're not steady in your feet, don't go walking around because there's a lot of trip hazards all over the place. These are all your masks, your waters. They're in the coolers. There's ice in them. We were actually pretty well taken care of in the airplane. I can't complain. This is a side cargo door. These are all the locking latches. It's an extensive, very powerful system of locks down here. Understandably strong because at high altitudes, this thing has to stay completely engaged and locked. Otherwise, the plane depressurizes. Anyways, this is the view out the back, the window and the rear door of the airplane. I'm sitting all the way, at this point, looking all the way from the back of the plane at the engine number 1 in the 747-400. This is when we got off in the Lackland Air Force Base. We came down basically in 0-0 visibility landing conditions on the auto land. This is about an hour after we landed when we were finally allowed off the airplane. Apparently, from what the flight crews are saying, the fog was already starting to lift. Now, this is what you call fog that lifted. I don't want to know what kind of fog the pilots landed in. Views of how they got us off the airplane. Of course, you know it's Kalita Air. You'll see a couple pictures of it in the background pretty soon. You notice how the taxiway lights are fading off into the fog. There's no airline markings. It's like a generic 747. These are the engines. You walked around them. Very rare you can walk in the tarmac next to one of these big monster planes. This is how close I was able to get. I was actually under the wingtip. Nobody cared. They trust that you're not stupid enough to go and touch this part of the exhaust pipe. It's still cooling off from a transoceanic flight. It's gotta be above boiling still. That's what the airplane looks like. Kalita Air. Anybody is interested? N716CK. That's the tail registration number. N716CK. You can look, aviation buffs, you can look it up and get the exact model number when the aircraft was built. You'll notice the lack of doors. One door here, nothing in between. So the bottom line is when we're flying on this thing, most of the passengers were complaining about the claustrophobia, lack of services. I was looking at it more from the standpoint of safety, saying, if we had to make an emergency landing, we're going to go with the airplane. We'll never get out of here. How are you going to evacuate 200 some odd people from just 2 doorways? If we had to make a water landing, there was a pallet in the back that had a whole bunch of life vests just loosely tied together with string. Assuming they all stayed in place in the high G-force impact with the ocean, how are you going to get them out the door? And the back of the plane usually is the first part that goes down. So you're going to go down with the plane anyways. But be that, aside from that, you try not to think of those kind of things. Anyways, this is the Welcome Center in Texas. Very well organized. It looks like the State Department and the military has gone through this exercise drill for contagion evacuees. Red Cross blankets and supplies. They process you through. There's portal sands in the hangar. This hangar basically was designed to handle B-52 bombers. It's huge. This is your admissions area. They record your name, your passport numbers, all the other kind of stuff, official documentation. They assign you a hotel room. These are your meal bags, your goodie bags, they call it. And from there, Bob, do we have enough time to go through about 30 pictures of New York City, just real quick?
I'll say real quick, I mean,
Okay.
people are hanging on and, you know, if it's too
Okay.
long, they can drop off, but yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
Folks, you got about 30 more pictures here. I'm going to show some scenes from around New York City, which you're probably not going to see in the year 2020. This scene you definitely will see. This is the TWA hotel terminal that was designed by Saarinen, the old original Gull Wing from TWA, which is now JetBlue. It's a hotel now. And here's the JFK Air train from Port Authority, New York and New Jersey going in front of it. This is shot from parking garage number 5. This is the R9 trip with the BUs in the background. And you had four R9s hauling it. This is the trip that was done during the last summer. That's at the Marcy Avenue. This is coming down out of Hughes, what do you call it, the Chauncey Street. In the background is the Manhattan skyline. These are the BUs going down the middle track. The R9s going, chasing it down the local track. Only on the elevators were they able to uncouple the two sets and run them independently. This is on the Myrtle Avenue L. This is at Central Avenue. The BUs. If you don't like the BUs, you can run with the R9s. It's a shame they opened up the door, but it was a really hot day, so I don't blame them for opening up the door for some fresh air. This is the BUs over at Hughes Street with the Lindsay Park houses in the background. This is passing Hughes Street heading towards Marcy with the Williamsburg Bridge in the back. R9s at Lorimer Street, hooked up to the BUs. Later on September 29th and 28th, that weekend was the New York City Transit Parade of Trains. These are the BUs. They had 4 train sets out. They had the BUs. They had the B-type standards from the old BMT, 1915 vintage. The BUs are late 1890s vintage. You had the R9s from the 1930s. This is all Sheepshead Bay. More shots of BUs at Sheepshead Bay going northbound, B-types, and the R9s. At Neck Road, you had the BUs, the B-types, R9s, and you had the 4th set that was running between Ocean Parkway and Brighton Beach. The train of Many Meadows, 2 R33 singles IRT cars, bracketing a pair of R38s. Passengers aboard on the R38s to avoid falling into the gaps, walk through the cars to ride the IRT cars. This is again at Neck Road. Reason why I'm showing a lot of this is because from what I understand from some internal sources, all museum train operations have been defunded by the MTA due to the financial crisis brought on by the pandemic. So as far as running museum trains this year, that's a definite no. Going into next year, who knows? So I'm showing these slides real quick to give you an example of what ran and what may never run again for quite some time to come. These are the low Vs up at the 72nd Street Broadway. This is coming out of 72nd Street, looking north, the northbound run from the southbound platform. It's good to have a camera that has ISO 6400 to get these kind of shots in motion. This is at Times Square as the train was dead heading back up to East 180th. He's already doing about 30 miles an hour in the tunnel. In the foreground here is the original alignments of the original IRT. They used to curve off the Broadway and go onto the Times Square shuttle and then continue on down to Lexington. This is what's left of the original right of way. The northbound local number 1 is on this track, and the local, northbound 2 and 3 express is on that track. Southbound's over the other side. Then you had the holiday train from Thanksgiving Sunday all the way until the last weekend before New Year's. Interesting wrinkle this year due to general orders. For a couple of the weekends, they ran the R9s up the 8th Avenue IMD. 14th Street is a good station to go to. The pillars are down the middle of the platform. They're not at the edge. Gives you a nice 3/4 angle view underground. Another shot of the R1 number 100, the original. This is at Madison Square Garden, 34th Street Penn Station. 42nd Street Port Authority Bus Terminal. If they ever run this train again, any of you guys want to photograph it, you've got to do it in the first round trip. After that, all the daisy pickers come out and everybody puts their elbows in the way. The only way to do this is on a 10 a.m. departure. 50th Street, 8th Avenue, 7th Avenue and 53rd Street, up at 145th Street on the middle turnaround on the lower level. I shot all 4 angles. the R9 1802, and the R1 number 100s. And closing out, we're getting to the R32s, which I thought by now would be gone from the property, but with the R179 crisis, these cars are now back on the C line. And I understand there's 3 train sets waiting around the J line just in case they run short. Whether they've run or not, if anybody knows, please let me know. At some point, I'll go up, I'll gather some bravery and go out in the subway with a camera. Anyways, this is the C. They had some general orders. They had 68 A's on the, or 68s on the Q on the 8th Avenue. The D was running up the 8th Avenue. And you also had a C train on its normal run with R32s. And lastly, we have the number 1 train at World Trade Center. No pillars in between the tracks, so you get a nice open view. And some amusing pictures taken around the subway. This guy was basically sleeping inside of his jacket. He looks like the headless horseman from Sleepy Hollow.
Yep.
And my final slide over here, I am hoping at some point, maybe not this year, but certainly in 2021, that we will see these scenes once again, the US Tennis Open and New York Mets games at Citi Field. And with that, thank you folks for joining the show. It's been a pleasure presenting it to you. Everyone out there, stay strong, stay healthy, stay well. All the best to every one of you.
Okay, thank you, Ron, very much. All of you are free to unmute yourself or turn on video if you want to say hello. See you July 17th. I put Ron's email and my email in there if you want to send us comments by email. Ron, look at the chat. You're getting a lot of nice comments. So,
Okay.
and you all can feel free to unmute yourself, turn on your video, and Ron, you can unshare your screen now for the last
Okay.
time.
Great show, Ron.
Thank you.
Great show,
Great
Ron,
show.
from Phil Kane.
Thank you.
Excellent.